Cowabunga! Make a splash with the Fixed Ops Roundtable as we dive into day one of the Fixed Ops Roundtable Summer Palooza event. Ready to ride the wave into our gnarly 4-day event? Is our host, Katrina Ness.
Good morning, I'm Katrina Ness from Northwood University. Grab your goggles as the Fixed Ops Roundtable dives into day one of our fabulous 4-day event. Get ready to step into the splash zone because we're making waves all season long with the Fixed Ops Roundtable Summer Palooza event. Join us by the campfire and interact more with the Fixed Ops Roundtable by using the chat feature on the right side of your screen. Just be sure to select everyone and not just hosts and panelists. Here to shed some sunshine on our day is our keynote speaker, Adam Marburger.
Welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine, and today, kicking off our keynote of the day, we have Adam Marburger, CEO and President of Ascent Dealer Services. Adam, it is such a pleasure and welcome to the Roundtable.
It's an honor and privilege to be here, especially with you, my fellow 40 under 40 superstar. So thank you for having me. When you guys called me and said, Adam, would you kick this thing off? It was an immediate yes. I just absolutely love what you've done. I love what you're doing. And anything that Ted Ings asked me to do, I typically say yes to. So with that being said, welcome to the 25th Fixed Ops Roundtable. It's amazing to see the growth. We just celebrated 5 years, and now this has gone from a 1-day single event to a 4-day event. So over the next 4 days, we're going to have the honor and the privilege to get some of the best practices, techniques, ideas, insight on our amazing industry. But let me talk a little bit about the important stuff real quick. See, I have a saying, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And there's a lot of really great ideas that surround us. But unfortunately, there's a lack of action taken on those brilliant ideas. So my challenge over these next 4 days, take your notes, be inspired, get fulfilled, but go take action within the 4 walls of your dealership immediately, because the action is going to create the results. So let's make no mistake. So why the heck is Adam Marburger, an F&I guy, sitting here kicking off a fixed ops roundtable, right? It seems kind of counterproductive. I'm in variable ops, but let me tell you, the relationship that fixed ops and variable ops has is symbiotic. See, without sales, there wouldn't be service. Without service, there wouldn't be sales. And I love being a part of this industry. I'm a recovering F&I manager. I spent 20 years in the box. I delivered over 20,000 retail transactions. And we did it with a servant leading heart with one thing in mind. And that was to happily engage our retail customer in the service department. And if we knew this, if we could get them happily engaged in service, we had a very high chance of selling them their next household car. So one thing that I love is I love that servant leading mindset. And I'll tell you, over the years following many of you in this group, I've been connected to so many brilliant minds. And the one thing that I love about the Fixed Ops Roundtable is the collaboration, the connections. People have become family, friends, allies, business partners. There's been so much good that has come out of this event that it's been an honor and a privilege to follow, be a part of, and be here today. So I do know this, and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say this loud for the people in the back. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So let's absorb this amazing information that we're going to get, and let's take action on it. We're going to talk about what does the future look like in the automotive industry? What does 2025 look like? What does the future of AI look like? We're going to talk about personnel. We're going to talk about all the good stuff. And I challenge you, let's take some action, my friends. Now, Sarah, I know you said you had a few questions for me, so I'll stick around. Let's chat. I'm here.
Adam Marburger, everyone, kicking off the Fixed Ops Roundtable today. Adam, yes, 40 under 40, that was a pivotal year in both of our careers. It really was the jump point. I feel like there's a definite line in my career with that moment just changed so much in both of our journeys, and yours especially has been so exciting to watch and see how you've just continued to grow and evolve. The question I wanted to ask, because you were a retail guy, you were in retail for so many years, and then you left and founded your own company, Ascent Dealer Services. Tell us a little bit today, what are some of the things that you've learned along the way?
I've learned a lot, and I'm still learning. I will tell you what I've learned being on this side of the industry. See, I served the retail side of the industry, but now being on this side, I'm still involved in retail. And so the level of what I've learned is we continue to get better. I mean, we're just getting better. We continue to evolve. Technologies allowed us to enhance speed of transaction. Everything continues to get better, and the industry is headed in the right direction. There's so much positive energy when you go into these dealerships, and years ago, we didn't have that culture, the positive cultures that have been created. And I'm in thousands of stores across the country, seeing these positive cultures that breed unity. It's really an honor and a privilege to see that. So we continue to just get better and better, more resilient. We keep getting things thrown at us. We've had, here, let's talk COVID, right? Chip shortage. Now look what happened. We had situation but we continue to bounce back because we're resilient, and we continue to go, and we continue to grow, and we just continue to get better. And I love that.
It is incredible to see just how the dealerships and the individuals that really embrace what you call that servant leader and that learning mindset. It's just, there's no limit. If you keep reinventing yourself and adapting to change, you're successful in this industry. And you are definitely a testament to that in this servant leadership. So talk to us too a little bit about the learning mentality that you discussed. It's so important for dealers to embrace it. But what are you finding with dealerships that you visit? Do all dealerships embrace that mentality, or how do you encourage it as you go through dealerships and meeting people?
That is a wonderful question. And we could talk about this for hours, so I'll keep this one short. The majority of our clients, just as personally speaking, I would say 80% of our clients have a growth mindset, 10x, abundance. Let's go. Let's grow. Let's love on our team. Let's serve our people. Put our people before ourselves. Like from the dealer down. I mean, I have a lot of dealers that put their people before them, and they serve them. And there's continuous training. I talk about, training is not something that we did. It's something that we must do, and it's something that we must do on a consistent basis, because there's always somebody training wanting to take what you have. And you have to understand that. And the day you think you got it all figured out is the day you start to go backwards, and you should probably think of retiring. So it breaks my heart when I do run into scenarios where dealers are just okay being okay. The status quo is just okay. And it really breaks my heart. And we try not to partner with dealers that don't have that growth mindset, because our mission and our vision is all things growth. And our job is to help dealers get to that next level. And if the dealer doesn't want to get to the next level, then it's just not a fit for us. So I'm seeing more and more, though, dealers truly wanting to win, dealers that invest into personal development. Dealers are investing in continuous training and development. So those are the dealers that are winning. The dealers that are winning are putting themselves in a position consistently with their training and their development. I talk about, I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it took me a very, very long time to earn my black belt. All right. 10,000 plus hours. I couldn't tell you, 12 years on the mats. And my coach would tell me this, my coach, UFC veteran Kyle Watson, he says, you sharpen your blade in private so the results will shine in public. And so every time I'd be training for a fight or a jiu-jitsu competition, I did a lot of training, a lot of private. What we did in private shined in public. And I tell my dealers the same thing. It's the consistency in our training and our sharpening our blade in private that will allow us to shine on the showroom floor, that will allow our financial statement at the end of the month to shine. It's that consistency in our training, development, and personal growth that's going to get us to that next level.
So inspiring, Adam Marburger. And we're here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. We have an exciting schedule, so much to learn. And this is really what you described, the opportunity to sharpen your blade. You get to sit here virtually, get to take in all this information from so many different companies and individuals and use that in your dealership or in your business. Adam, I think a lot of dealers right now are also thinking about what's the future in 2025. So I would love to get Adam Marburger's take. What is your take on what dealers can anticipate in this next year?
Yeah, I wish I wish I could rub a genie and get 3 wishes. And one of those wishes would be to show the landscape of what next year looks like. What I do know is we're going to have some setbacks. Things aren't always going to be easy. We're going to have to continue to innovate, evolve, trust in ourselves, continue to train on a consistent basis. See, next year we're an election year, so not going to get political, but there's some things that could change. And, when we get to election times, sometimes there's, a little bit of division and some back and forth, and there's some turmoil, and there's things that are going to go on. Right. And regardless of the outcome, it doesn't matter who wins. Here's what I know about automotive dealers. Okay. We're the most entrepreneurial minded individuals in the world. All right. I own a bunch of different companies and a bunch of different verticals. Let me tell you something right now. My dealer clients are the most high level entrepreneurs of anyone that I talk to. Okay. We are resilient. We're strong. We're intelligent. We learn how to delegate. We know how to serve. We can run multiple departments. It's insane the level of entrepreneurship that resides in the automotive industry. So regardless of what happens, the strong will prevail. Those that have the right mindset, that are committed to growth, that are going to do whatever it takes to get the result will be fine. The woe and me, the victim mindset, those that are reactive and not proactive, you might see fade off into the sunset. So 2025 is a big question mark. I do know AI is playing a big role. Speed of transaction, we're finding ways consistently. See, as an F&I provider, it's all about speed of transaction, CSI, and getting products sold that happily engage the retail customer and service. That's what F&I is all about. And we have to do it in a frictionless manner, and it has to be done quick. So the F&I industry as a whole, we're working on speed of transaction, transparency. There's a lot of legislation going on right now. You got the CARS rule sitting up on the shelf being worked and reworked, and we don't know what that's going to look like. If that CARS rule is passed the way it sits now in legislation, it's going to be a really tough time in the automotive industry. So there's that piece to the equation, right? But here's what I know. Regardless of what is thrown our way, the strong will prevail, period. And automotive dealers are the most ultra entrepreneurs in the world.
Adam, I have one final question for you today. And I looked at your bio at Ascent Dealer Services on the website, and what you've built with your company is so incredible. But I noticed the one thing in your bio that you called attention to at the very top was the importance of your personal and your professional life. So talk to us a little bit. The dealership environment, sometimes it's really challenging for either owners, operators to embrace that mindset when it comes to their employees, or finding ways to retain talent that want to live a meaningful life professionally, but also enjoy their personal pursuits. So talk to us a little bit. How did you find that balance, and what's most important to you?
That is a really good question. And the thing that I'm the most proud of about my agency, Ascent Dealer Services, is the culture that's been created. We have an unbreakable bond. There's no micromanaging. There's no clocking in, clocking out. There's no such thing as vacation time. The results matter. So we built a culture that our mission is to help every dealer enhance their F&I operations in every aspect. We're on that. And we have the same mission as the team. Our vision is to build the most respected F&I agency in the world, not in the country, in the world. And everybody has to be bought in on that. And I worked in retail, and I worked for some amazing operators. Okay. But I also had some GMs along the way that were not so amazing. We don't need to name them. But what I do know is this: there was a time I used to have to beg to be a father. There was a time that I worked 78 hours a week and I didn't see anything. I missed out on a whole lot being in retail. Now, I built a whole lot. I gained a lot of knowledge. I was able to go take that and build a beautiful company. But what I love now and what I'm seeing in the industry is dealers, a lot of dealers, not all, are starting to say, hey, we've got to keep this key employee. Family is the most important thing. We shouldn't be grinding our F&I person 70 hours a week. We shouldn't be grinding our salespeople 60 hours a week. The idea of working 6 days a week is, we're starting to back up. You're seeing dealers doing 4-day work weeks. I got a buddy, you know him, Glenn Lundy. Glenn doesn't even have a schedule at his dealership, which I think is amazing, right? Because those that want to work are going to work. It's just the way it is, right? So I love the shift that I'm seeing recently. I'm really seeing the shift of dealers being more family oriented. And that's what it's all about. Because if you treat everybody, so nobody works for me. Okay. By the way, nobody works for me. Nobody's allowed to call me boss. I don't like any of that. I work for them. I serve my people because I have an obligation to them and their family and their livelihood. So I serve my people. And I think as dealers adopt that same mentality, my goodness, your people stick around. They don't ever want to leave. You build a culture that it's impossible to ever want to leave. And so it's really important. And for me, Sarah, that's a really good question, because that is the reason our culture is the reason we're successful. I mean, yeah, we're pretty good at what we do, but it's the culture that we have created collectively. There's not one person on the team that's more important than the next. We play a unique, equal role within the organization. We all have a voice. We all come together and we all love on each other, support each other. And we wouldn't take a bullet for each other. We would take several. That's what we have built at Ascent Dealer Services. And I'm seeing a lot of dealer groups across the country that have adopted this servant leading, family first organization, And guess what? It's more profitable. It's more profitable. So.
Everyone, today, Adam Marburger kicking off the Fixed Ops Roundtable. We are so honored to have you, Adam. So much wise words were shared. I appreciate you, and I know Ted Ings appreciates you being part of this today.
My pleasure. Appreciate you both greatly.
Everyone, stick around. We have more exciting content, a full day ahead of us at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Lots of information. Adam Marburger, President and CEO of Ascent Dealer Services, kicking us off today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Adam Marburger here, President and CEO of Ascent Dealer Services. We are one of the largest and fastest growing agencies in the United States. And it's our online reputation and our online presence that's got us there. We're the only agency that exists that has almost 500 five-star reviews. And I believe this. I believe it's about what others say about you that really counts. Here's a review that I'd like you to take a look at that we're very proud of.
Hello, my name is Nikhil Kalani, Chief Information Security Officer at Proton Dealership IT and Cybersecurity. We've recently opened a brand new Security Operations Center here in our Dayton, Ohio headquarters. This center is a substantial upgrade for constant monitoring of suspicious activity on our customer systems. On-site professionals analyze the cyber landscape, the techniques criminals are using, and monitor the signals received by our tools. Our new Security Operations Center will elevate monitoring and response to a whole new level, keeping you safer than ever before. If you'd like to learn more about what Proton can do for you, let's talk.
Hey, it's Jim Sabino here, All-American Ford Mobile Service at your service. Check this baby out. This is one of our newest units to add to our fleet of mobile vans to service you, our customers. Coming around back here, I'm going to show you inside exactly how this van works for you. All right, as you can see, this is a fully equipped mobile service van that does everything. It's like a mobile hospital. That's right, we can do it all in this truck. Come on inside, I'm going to get into the details on how this baby works for you. So we can do oil changes. We got oil filters on stock, air filters, wiper blades, cabin air filters, recalls. We have this laptop here. There's all the programming of all the modules, and any recall that we can do on the road, we will do it for you. That's right. Check this out. Look at this equipment that we have in this truck. Fully equipped, mobile technicians come to you. Certified technicians at your site, at your place of business. You call us, text us, email us. Our mobile service coordinator will take all your information, make the appointment, and our mobile van will show up on location at your convenience, perform the service that you need. All American Ford Mobile Service, check us out.
You can't go wrong with our next segment. Please welcome Andrew Wright of Vinart Dealerships.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Van Tyne. In today's segment, we have an incredible speaker, Andy Wright, managing partner of the Vinart Dealerships and chairman of the Hyundai Dealer Council. Andy, it's such a pleasure to have you on the roundtable today.
It's great to be here, Sarah. Thank you very much for having me. It's good to be back, I should say. This is a multiple appearance for me, so I'm excited.
Well, we are so honored to have you back. And for those that may not have had the opportunity to watch your previous segments, I wanted to ask you some questions today to learn a little bit more about you and a little bit more about your involvement with Vinart, and then, of course, the Hyundai Dealer Council. So, Andy,
Sure.
Just to start out, how did you first get started in the automotive industry?
So I had the good fortune of becoming a second generation dealer officially about 5 years ago. But I've been in the business my entire life, full time since graduating from college, just about 25 years now. And I'm kind of the typical classic story of started washing cars and kind of went from there in the industry, right? And I graduated from college and did NADA Dealer Candidate Academy and worked my way through the store and learned the ins and outs of the operation from my dad, who founded the company back in 1983. So it's been an interesting journey of learning, of growth. I've had an opportunity to buy and sell about a half a dozen stores as part of my journey, as well as operating the 5 that I own right now. So I feel like I've had a pretty healthy exposure to pretty much all facets of the industry. And it's been exciting. It's been fun. I often tell people that when I'm not excited to get up in the morning and come to work, it's probably time to do something different. And I'm more energized today than I was 25 years ago. So it's been a lot of fun. It's a great business.
Well, and you are such an advocate for that growth in the culture of your organization, and you're always expanding new ideas, new technologies, new processes. What do you feel has been the most important components for your own personal development as you've gone from washing cars to now, being chairman of the Hyundai Dealer Council and a managing partner? What advice would you give people that are wanting to come up in the industry?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, but I'll just start by saying that this is a fantastic industry, and I am an ardent proponent and protector of the franchise system. I think it's by far the best delivery mechanism that's ever been in existence in retail automotive. Certainly, we know that there are certain quote unquote disruptor companies that are out there that have chosen to go a different path, and some have done so successfully and many others have not. But one thing that's remained consistent is that the franchised dealers that represent all of the legacy OEMs have done a fantastic job serving the communities that they operate in, growing and developing associates and team members across multiple departments, multiple stores, and in some instances, multiple regions, and have just experienced exponential growth as a result of that. So it's a very entrepreneurial business. And I think that it's a great place for people with that entrepreneurial spirit to pursue their dreams. That certainly is what enticed my father to get involved in the retail automotive business back in the 70s. That ultimately led to him becoming a dealer, like I said, in 1983 and growing a company and experiencing tremendous success. So that entrepreneurial spirit that he possessed and instilled in me has really served as a primary motivator. But I think the thing that drives me is really just this desire, this insatiable appetite to just get better every day. I think if you're not growing, you're going, as they say. And I think it's important that you stay ahead of change, that you stay progressive, while also honoring and respecting the traditions and the fundamentals and the hallmarks that make a business like retail automotive successful. So I think it's that, that combination of respect again for tradition and for the fundamentals, while also keeping an eye towards the future and making sure that we're at the cutting edge of technological innovation, certainly process innovation, team member development. There's just so much to do in this industry that there's never a dull moment. So I try to sort of drink it all in. It's a little overwhelming sometimes, but that's why we do what we do. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, and it is incredible to see all the growth that's been happening with the Vinart dealerships. And one of the pieces that I know has been a topic of conversation, and you touched on the importance of the franchise model and how impactful that's been for your career, and then also your employees, your community. And I know that with Hyundai, there has been a pilot that has been going on with Amazon, and there's been a lot of questions about what does this mean for the dealer franchise system? What does this mean for vehicle sales? Could you share a little bit more with our audience today about what's going on with Amazon and how you are really piloting and participating in this evolution?
Yeah, absolutely. So as chairman of the Hyundai National Dealer Council, I was honored to be present back at the LA Auto Show in November of last year when Hyundai made this momentous announcement that they were partnering with Amazon on multiple fronts, not just on a plan to offer vehicles for sale at retail on the Amazon platform, sold by dealers, mind you. That was always the message from the outset. Unfortunately, some of the traditional media, legacy media outlets like the Wall Street Journal and Automotive News really did a disservice to Hyundai, to Amazon, and to the industry by sort of misrepresenting what was actually happening when that announcement was made. The headlines read something to the effect of Hyundai intends to sell cars on Amazon, not Hyundai dealers intend to sell cars on Amazon, but rather Hyundai. So the implication was that it was going to be a direct-to-consumer model, and that was never the case. Jose Munoz was very clear about that from the outset, that this was not about a direct sales model via the Amazon channel. This was about opening up the Amazon marketplace or another, large channel. I mean, let's face it, Amazon is the largest e-commerce platform in the world. And, it represents a great opportunity for an enterprising OEM automotive brand to offer their products via their dealers on that platform. So that was sort of the vision that Jose had, and that I believe the folks at Amazon had. So the partnership, the arrangement, the agreement made sense, right? So we set out back at the beginning of the year with 18 pilot dealers. Believe it or not, I was not a pilot dealer. I was at the forefront of just working with Amazon on behalf of dealers to make sure that Amazon understands the dynamics of the franchise business model and the fact that there are 50 different states, obviously, with 50 different sets of regulations and franchise laws and things like that. And then you pile on top of that the federal regulations and federal requirements and things like that. This is a complex animal. And I really think that the smart people at Amazon didn't fully understand exactly what they were getting into. So they needed help from dealers to understand the complexities of the marketplace and how they might go about building out their ecosystem to end up being able to retail cars on that platform. So that's really fast forwarding to today where we're at. The pilot is still ongoing. There is talk of a larger scale rollout of the pilot, if you will, or expansion of the pilot here in the coming weeks going into the fourth quarter. And we'll see what happens. But cars are absolutely being sold on Amazon. Granted, it is only to Amazon employees. That's the only subset of the Amazon population that is able to transact on the platform, Amazon employees. So when the platform is opened up to the broader public, we'll see what happens. But there's still a lot of work being done behind the scenes. There's still a lot of work being done as part of the pilot itself with the dealers involved. And it still remains to be seen where this goes. So it's exciting. I think the takeaway that I hope everybody has from all of this is, number one, dealers will be in control of the transaction. We control the pricing. We control fulfillment. So it's our responsibility to deliver the vehicle and handle all the paperwork. Amazon is simply an intermediary, and they're opening up their platform as another sales channel to dealers to sell cars. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, when you get right down to it, my attitude, my purview has always been, I want to go where the consumer wants to transact. If that's 100% online, 100% in store, or a combination of the two, let's do it. I'm game. You know what I mean? And if 100% online means it happens on my website or it happens on Amazon.com, that's fine. But at the end of the day, we're controlling the transaction from the standpoint of pricing, fulfillment, support after the sale in the form of service and all the things that come with that. So yeah, this is new uncharted territory. We'll see what happens, but lots to still shake out, as they say.
Well, and another just follow-up question, if I may, on that subject. So, some of the curiosity in how this has been going with Amazon employees. So with the dealers that are participating today in the pilot, is it really sales that's happening within their local market, like kind of in their PMA, or are they buying vehicles potentially, across the country from a dealership and then having it shipped to them? What are you seeing as far as the transactions go?
Yeah, so I haven't been privy to all the transactional data, but I do hear the anecdotes from the dealers that are involved in the program. The overwhelming majority, if not all of the sales, are to local buyers because of the nature of the pilot and the dealers that were selected and their proximity to Amazon facilities, whether they be distribution facilities or corporate offices and things like that. Those transactions are highly localized, right? I'm sure there's a handful in there that maybe a customer was looking for a particular build spec on a particular model and they had to go to a dealer a couple hundred miles away or whatever. That very well could have happened. But I think really at the end of the day, what Amazon and Hyundai dealers want to see is an ecosystem that first and foremost prioritizes local transactions, right? But also can facilitate a transaction if it is a sort of one-off type vehicle that is not available in someone's home market. So that's a good thing, I think, because after the sale, it's going to be the local dealer that supports that customer with all of their service needs, warranty, parts, accessories, you name it. So it makes sense for us to maintain a localized focus, and I think we've accomplished that. So it remains to be seen once the broader pilot again is opened up, once the pilot is opened up, to the broader dealer body. But for now, that is the what I would characterize as the nature of the transactions for the time being.
Well, it's exciting, Andy, to hear all that's been going on with it. And I'm excited. We'll have to have you back on the next roundtable to hear how this continues to evolve and what is coming down the pipeline in the future.
Yeah, I think we'll know more by the end of the year.
Well, it's also an interesting subject because you brought up some of the pieces as far as the dealer controlled pricing and talking and pivoting a little bit on the pricing subject. You and I were talking in the green room a little bit more about some of the affordability crisis that is happening with consumers and dealerships. And that has been a big topic on the Fixed Ops Roundtable, with people discussing, what's happening when a customer is considering purchasing a new vehicle or looking at a pre-owned vehicle with a dealership. And there's a lot of implications that could come down the pipeline as it pertains to that customer choosing to service or, where they're even transacting. So could you share a little bit more about what you're seeing and what Vinart dealerships are doing as it pertains to the customer purchase experience and how you can address some of those affordability concerns?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think coming out of COVID, we saw prices spike, as did so much in our society with inflation. And as a result, vehicle prices spiked as well, right? So now we find ourselves in a situation where we don't have an undersupplied market. Many arguments could be made that we have an oversupplied market in certain sectors with certain brands in the industry, right? So as a result of that, it's starting to put downward pressure on pricing, which is a good thing because so many consumers were priced out of the market that they ended up having to spend money to fix or maintain older vehicles that they would have otherwise traded in. So it was also a good thing for our after sales operations, for our fixed operations, because we saw repair order counts jump. We certainly saw dollars per repair order go up because of the nature of the maintenance and repair work that was being done on older vehicles. So, but that's not always the first choice of consumers, you know? So I think what we're seeing now, I mean, you look at the data and we're starting to see leasing come back in a big time way. And I think that that's good. That's healthy for a variety of different reasons. But number one, first and foremost, it is the most affordable way to get into a new vehicle. And I talk to people all the time about leasing. I'm a huge proponent of leasing, always have been, because when you get right down to it, you know, a new car, a car is a depreciating asset, right? So there's always merits and benefits to leasing a depreciating asset. And I also think that people need to start evolving in their thinking and in their mindset, and they need to start looking at the total cost of mobility more so than looking at a car as an investment, because it's not a very good investment when you get right down to it. Other than that very brief period during COVID, most people that bought their cars were not experiencing appreciation. Quite the opposite. They were experiencing depreciation in pretty large numbers, right? So leasing shields people from that exposure from the standpoint of they maintain a lower monthly payment for the lease. The vehicle is under warranty for the majority of the lease, if not the entirety of the lease. So many OEMs like Hyundai now provide 3 years of complimentary maintenance. So that's another added value. And you're driving around in a vehicle that has all the latest safety features and technology. And, you know, as a friend of mine said the other day, if it has 4 wheels and Apple CarPlay, that is usually enough to satisfy today's consumer. I wouldn't go quite that far, but it's pretty darn close. But when you get right down to it, we do have an affordability issue in this country. Vehicles have gotten way too expensive. There's a huge void at the low end of the market, and OEMs need to respond. Some are already doing that. Some are a lot slower to that party. I think that that's going to accelerate as we get further into 2025. But we've got to do something, because with leasing having taken a back burner position during COVID, we don't have an abundance of vehicles coming off lease here for the foreseeable future. That's going to impact used vehicle prices, right? So again, it's an opportunity for the new vehicle manufacturers to swoop in and leverage their manufacturing capabilities coupled with their financial resources to really, I think, inject some affordability into the marketplace. So hopefully we see that manifest itself in a much larger capacity, because Lord knows the market needs it and wants it and desires it.
Well, and everybody is thinking about their monthly payments. They're looking at the cost of insurance increasing as more technology and
great point.
all of these pieces are added to the consumer's plate when it comes to the cost of ownership. So you're spot on. Leasing is such an underappreciated way for a customer to have a vehicle that maintains its warranty. And as you mentioned, brands like Hyundai, that's a win-win from a retention standpoint, because now you have that customer coming into your dealerships for service.
That's right. That's right. No, it's a comprehensive package. It's just what the doctor ordered, as they say, for a market like this, where there's so much stress on people's wallets right now, and there's a need for cheaper vehicle alternatives, especially given the age of the vehicle fleet. I forget what the latest study was. I think it was from Cox. It was something like the average age of a vehicle riding around out there was almost 13 years old. I mean, that's astounding to think it's gotten that high that quick, because it wasn't that long ago. It was only like 8 to 10 years old. You know, that's quite a jump since COVID.
Well, and in our final moments, I want to ask you, because we've all been thinking about what's coming up on the horizon for 2025. There's a lot of conversations about, okay, well, what does this election mean? How is that going to impact the auto industry? You know, which way would that potentially influence pieces? How does the EV market look? What's going to happen, you know, with consumers? Are we going to have a new wave of technology or processes that customers are going to want to have in their service or purchasing experience? So in our last moments, just quick takeaway, what would you say to dealers that they need to be focusing on in the coming year for 2025?
Sure. So, well, if everybody is not at least partially focused on cybersecurity after the outage, I don't know what it's going to take to make that happen. And I'm not even a client, but I was adversely impacted by that, like so many, not to the extent that my fellow dealer colleagues that use DMS products were, but yeah, that was a crazy situation that had profound impact on our industry. So hopefully cybersecurity is on everyone's mind and at the forefront of their thinking going into 2025, because as an industry, we certainly have lagged behind in terms of being prepared for cybersecurity threats, working together, all stakeholders, dealers, OEMs, technology companies, and even customers to make sure that we're employing as much standardization as possible, both in how we handle data, the protocols, all the things that contribute to comprehensive cybersecurity policy. So we've got to get our act together on that. I'm actually anxious to see what the topic of discussion revolving around that is going to look like as we head into NADA at the beginning of the year in New Orleans, because we've got to do something as an industry. So that's obviously an important topic that's at the forefront of my mind. Obviously, it's good to see OEMs beginning to pivot away from the aggressive battery electric vehicle strategies that they had all announced and invested in. A lot of them are starting to pivot more towards hybrid electric vehicles, plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. I certainly believe that that is a prudent, shrewd strategy to pursue, especially given the fact that plug-in hybrids, hybrid electric vehicles, they represent the next step in the progression toward an all battery electric vehicle future. The fact that this was forced upon the industry, if you will, I think was a misstep. And hopefully the OEMs working together with government entities will be able to sort of recalibrate. And Lord knows we're working towards that BEV future, but I think we got to be a little bit more patient about sort of how we crawl, walk, run into that future for mobility. So I think that's going to be interesting to see play out in a big time way. And then lastly, it's just a matter of how do we keep our factories churning out vehicles while not having them sit on dealer lots. We got to get them out on the street. And I think that so much of what we're doing is going back to the basics. For a while there, we were basically order takers because we didn't have any inventory to speak of. So it was pretty much order taking. And we've got to get back to being professional salespeople. And of course, that speaks to the customer experience, whether that starts, again, 100% online, 100% in store, or a combination of the two. We've got to be professionals, and we have to be efficient in the delivery of our goods and services to our customers, because that's what they want. That's what they're accustomed to in today's society with companies like Amazon and how people are transacting, whether it's through e-commerce on platforms like Amazon, delivery services like DoorDash and Uber Eats and all that type of stuff. We're a now society, as they say, and I think retail automotive would be well served to elevate our game when it comes to how efficiently we deliver our goods and services. So that's what's on my horizon going into 2025 as we close out 2024.
Well, Andy, it's always a pleasure to get to catch up with you and learn all about the different things that both you and Vinart dealerships and, of course, the Hyundai Dealer Council are working on. So thank you on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable for being part of our segment today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much to you and to Ted and the entire team at Fixed Ops Roundtable. You guys do a great job. The service you provide to the industry is well received. It's needed, and we are extremely thankful. So please keep up the good work.
Everyone, Andy Wright, managing partner of the Vinart dealerships and chairman of the Hyundai Dealer Council, here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Sarah.
BG Experience provides a window into today's vehicle systems, including the engine, brake, driveline, and cooling system. You will learn about how each system functions, the challenges they face, and BG Products' preventative maintenance solutions to these challenges. BG Experience is used by automotive trade schools and service centers to educate students, technicians, and service advisors. The ability to see how individual components of complex vehicle systems interact in motion provides a more visceral understanding than older training methods. We partner with over 50,000 shops and service centers around the globe. BG Experience is an essential tool to engage and educate automotive professionals worldwide.
Grab a pair of shades. Our next speaker is auto industry leader Mike Maroone of Maroone, USA.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Mike Maroone is one of the best known and highly regarded automotive leaders in our time. He and his family are now in their third generation of the retail automotive business. Mike started out at the family's Ford dealership in Western New York, then becoming the general manager of the first Maroone dealership in South Florida. The Maroone Automotive Group would grow to 9 dealerships before merging with AutoNation in 1997, where Mike became the key architect for their growth and served as president and chief operating officer until 2015. Today, he leads the Mike Maroone family of dealerships in Colorado and Florida. Mike, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be with you.
Mike, what an exciting time in our industry. I can't recall anything like what we've experienced the last few years and what's on the horizon potentially.
Ted, it is a great time, and there's lots to be excited about. And I think that the first thing that comes to my mind is the introduction of new technologies and innovation into the business, and the continued expansion of the digital platforms and providing guests a whole different way to shop for vehicles, way to make service appointments, just a way to communicate. And this technology is expensive, but very effective.
And Mike, one of the things that I really admire about you is not only are you a student of the retail car business, but you've got a hand in a lot of this technology around the peripheral of the car business and beyond, and are really keeping an eye on that. So I'm excited about our interview today. What do you think what does the dealership landscape look like if you look out over the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think it's a great business. It's always going to be a great business. But Ted, there's all kinds of challenges in the business, and they start with affordability. The mix of new and used vehicles is more expensive than many consumers can afford. Through the pandemic, we saw continued increases in content, vehicle content, and prices, and incentives dropping, and it really created kind of a stalemate. There's a smaller group of people that can afford new vehicles, and even our used vehicles are much more expensive than they were. And then you put on top of that is the pricing of parts, the pricing of our service labor as we've continued to compete for technicians. It puts a lot of pressure on the consumer. And speaking of pressure, there's also pressure on margins, both for the OEMs and the dealers. So it's a very unique time. We also have challenges with the units in operation. So it's going to impact our service business, those 3 years of not selling as many new vehicles, the shortage of used vehicles, the EV challenges. There's a ton of challenges, but I'm still excited about the business. I think there's still big opportunity in the business, and it's a time for dealers to really continue to educate themselves, get more information, participate in events like this, and and get ready to compete.
Mike, as a follow-up, if I can come back to something you just mentioned a moment ago, I can't recall a time when I had as many interviews on the Fixed Ops Roundtable with dealer operators telling me how expensive it has become to operate a dealership and how that's happened over the last year or two. And of course, that's had a ripple effect, the cost of labor, technicians, labor rates, and so on, and onto affordability. I don't know if you want to speak to some of that, but it's really had a big impact, it seems, on doing business.
It has, and it's not unique to auto retail, Ted. I'm involved in a bunch of different businesses, and every business I'm in has pressure on the supply side, has pressure on the labor side, and that pressure is on the business operator, but it's really on the consumer. So it's a big challenge, and we're gonna have to work very intelligently, work with our people, and to me, the way to get costs down is to get productivity up, and that's what technology is about. That's what education's about. That's what training's about. To me, that's the solution.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, a lot of technologies rapidly approaching in our business now, which could have a big effect on what we do. Um, how about the EV market? That has certainly slowed down. A lot more talk today about the hybrid models. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let's start with EV. The challenge in EVs is that the product development was driven globally by government, not by consumers. And when things are mandated without understanding all the pieces that go together, it's a really classic situation of a disconnect between government and consumers. I think EVs were overhyped, and certainly everybody wants clean air. And I think they're being trashed unnecessarily now. To me, it's the evolution of the product, and hybrids are becoming the bridge between the traditional ICE and the EVs, and it'll give us more time to build the infrastructure, get the batteries right, get the cost structure right. But it's a major pivot, and prior to the pivot, there has been billions and billions of dollars that have been invested that there will be no return on investment. That's at the OEM level. At the dealer level, and it depends on the OEM, they've mandated big investments by the dealers, a lot of which won't be used in the near term. So it's a challenge for the industry. But again, if you start with that feeling of we want clean air for our children, our grandchildren, our great grandchildren, then let's keep progressing toward it. But let's have intelligent solutions. And what would be great is if government and the industry could work closer together.
You spoke briefly about some of the new innovations that are coming into our industry. I want to touch on that, especially in fixed operations and dealership wide, Mike. Today, there's a lot of new technologies. We hear about AI all the time. We know it's involved in many other industries. Today, it can be involved in things such as making things such as a service appointment, make it easier for the dealership. I know one of the things I hear from dealers a lot is that we have trouble answering the phone in this day and age. And I mean, not on a high level scientific level, but we need someone to make sure the phone gets picked up and answered. And it's probably no busier than in service than it is anywhere else in the store. And we see AI now being used in things like recall technology, and it's picking up the pace. Your thoughts on some of that?
Well, Ted, I think you hit it just right. I mean, the human imperfections in part can be cured by AI, not in total. We are an investor and a user of AI with Stella Automotive. One of our key executives sits on the board, so I'm biased and believe that their products are something that can really help dealers. If you think about it, every single call is answered on the first ring, and that alone makes a big difference and allows our service consultants to do the job of serving guests that are in front of them rather than trying to make appointments or rather than relying on a remote BDC. I think that there's other things that can be done with AI and will evolve. The other technology that I'm excited about, and we're not an investor in it, is UVI. We've now put UVI in 4 of our stores. It is an amazing piece of technology and gives guests accurate information, allows us to run loaner cars, trade-ins, customer vehicles, all kinds of things through it. And we've found many usage and many usages. And I'm very excited about that technology as well. And I'm sure there's more to come. And I like to think about the business of what's happening today and tomorrow, not think about where we've been.
You mentioned that MRI type technology. Okay. And initially, when I looked at it, I thought maybe 2 years back that this is going to be great for our service customers coming in on a typical service visit. But you're right. That has now been enhanced where now we're using that technology to look at potential trades, to be able to do evaluations. We've realized in the business that how important the appraisal is to the entire reconditioning process, and to have a tool such as that with an extra set of eyes or two really enhances a dealership's operation.
Well, it's great for our guests because they see an accurate view of their vehicle, and we're now finding great use for it at an F&I. So as we get in an F&I situation, we can say, well, on your last car, here's what happened. Your wheels were dinged, you had dents here, you had mechanical breakdown here, you had leaks. And it really allows guests to be better informed and consider some of the products that we've been trying to sell for a long time, and most times successfully, but more successfully today using technology like that.
Mike, it's amazing how this conversation about fixed operations has evolved now to all parts of the dealership. And that makes total sense, having that discussion in the F&I office based on the customer's past usage and using these tools. What other technologies? Because I know you're keeping an eye on a lot of things out there in the industry. What do you see coming? What should dealers be aware of? And what perhaps is going to work its way into the dealership in the next few years?
Well, the one that's right in the front of my mind, Ted, is video usage. And I know that's not new to some, but it's becoming more widespread. And we're encouraging both our sales consultants and our service technicians to communicate with guests using video. I think that anything that's fact-based gives guests more confidence, allows them to make better decisions, and video is really important. I think the other one, again, it's been out for a couple of years, but is really growing, is mobile service. And mobile service was mandated and encouraged by some OEMs, and it's been difficult to staff it in the pandemic. It's difficult to build a business case around it, but we're seeing more and more usage, especially with commercial and fleet customers, with recalls, and with people who maybe don't have the mobility to come out to dealerships. So I think that things like mobile and video and AI and UVI are things that will allow us to be more productive, but more importantly, to give guests a much better experience.
I know you've dealt with a lot of manufacturers during the course of your career. And one of the things that we're hearing a lot from manufacturers today is increased throughput at the dealership when it comes to service, being able to get a vehicle in and out in less time, maybe with less steps from the technician as possible, and to be more efficient and to use some of these tools. You're right. Some of the business and commercial things that we're hearing from OEMs, I recently heard an OEM talk about the time for their truck business nationwide, the time from opening an RO to closing the RO was a little over 8 days. And they want to narrow that gap and using some of these tools. So, Mike, we're talking about efficiencies and transparencies. This is ultimately great for the customer.
It is great for the customers. It's also great for dealerships. When you can be more efficient, there's financial rewards for being more efficient. There's rewards for our associates who work on commission. And that's where I'm really hopeful that AI and video will help people be more productive, let our technicians make more money, and have our guests have a better experience, and certainly be more sensitive to their time. In one of our bigger stores, 30% of our service business is from outside the service department, where we go out and pick up vehicles all over the state of Colorado and bring them into the dealership. And in those cases, those guests are not as price sensitive, but they're certainly more time sensitive. And, having those commercial vehicles and fleet vehicles out of usage is really expensive for our customers.
Some of these are new revenue streams for the dealership. There was a lot of talk. I remember up until About a year and a half ago, I was hearing a lot about connected car. I think that's still a big part of the equation, as part of potential new revenue streams. But, what else are you looking at as potential revenue streams for the dealer body in the future?
Well, I think the number one revenue stream that we're trying to unlock, and we haven't done it to my satisfaction yet, is personalization. The term accessorization has always been the term, but I really believe that personalization allows individuals to express themselves more in the vehicle they buy, not with the cost of the vehicles or the showiness of the vehicles, but beginning to do things that define them and define their vehicle. And there's some really cool software out there that we can use, and we're working very hard to find ways to give our guests a chance to express themselves. And I think it's going to be a great revenue stream. And then one that I just mentioned, and I think we've just skimmed the surface in a couple of our stores, but there's more there. And that's the government business, the commercial business, the fleet business that have very different needs than our retail consumer, but we'd like to earn that business and believe we can.
And Mike, that's good business. That's good business for the dealer, because those commercial fleets, they run those vehicles and they need to have them operating, and they need to be maintained. They need to take care of repairs too. And I know typically they're not shy about doing that if you can earn their business.
That's exactly correct. And Ted, I referenced in the challenges discussion we had earlier how the reduced UIO, units in operation, was a concern. Well, the way to deal with that is to go out and get that business from people who aren't your retail customers, but still have service needs. So I think you've identified big opportunity there.
Some of the things you've mentioned, mobile service, you're right. Some manufacturers are much more into that than others. Service, pickup, and delivery. This is all making it more convenient for the customer, doing business on their terms. I know when I go to a dealership, 2 weeks ago, I had to do for service. I don't like having to go in for service. I don't know many people who do, but no matter how nice we make it, if we can do it on their terms, at their convenience, I would imagine that also plays a big fact into repeats and customers coming back and wanting that type of service on their terms.
Well, competition is not just about price or location. It is about convenience. And as an industry, we've been labeled as being inconvenient at times, and we need to fight that to get our share of the business back. And I think you're correct. The challenge is it's expensive to pick up and deliver. It's expensive to do mobile service. And we're going to have to continue to work on productivity and find out what guests will pay for and what they'll just assume. And that's one of the challenges of being in business, but that's what makes the business fun.
Mike Maroone is with us, everybody. He's chairman and CEO of Maroone USA, a huge leader in our industry, talking about fixed operations today. Mike, for the dealers and retail managers watching, are there any changes on the horizon coming that you feel that are not yet fully understood or that are underappreciated by the retail automotive industry in your mind?
Ted, I think probably the first thing that comes to mind really is the number of new entrants into the industry, whether they're from China, they're from direct sellers like Tesla, like Rivian. I think there's going to be a lot more of that, and the franchise dealers are going to be very challenged to pick up their game and be much better at what we do. I think we've got tremendous advantages, and we need to play to those advantages and really patch up our weaknesses, which rely in part on convenience and cost.
And Mike, as a final question today for you, do you feel the auto industry becomes better for retail automotive dealers in the next 5 to 10 years? I know it's hard to look into that crystal ball, based on, hindsight. Okay. But your thoughts on the industry?
Well, Ted, as I look at the industry and invest in the industry, and the investments are getting bigger and bigger, you've got to have belief in the next 5 to 10 years, and you've got to have a love of the industry. What I love about the industry is it's highly competitive. It's always changing. You can measure your success on a daily basis, whether you're measuring it in market share or reputation scores or CSI scores. I think it's a great business. And as we measure it, our return on investment in auto retail is better than any of the other investments we do. So that's what keeps us coming back. But we're going to have to keep investing in the business and keep improving and keep attracting better people, retaining better people in order to get those returns in the future.
Mike, as a quick follow-up, I see more dealers than ever before now investing in technologies outside of their dealership that will benefit ultimately their dealership and their group. Your thoughts on that? Because I see that as growing and growing, and I have never heard so much about it as in the last year or two.
Well, those investments are what we call VC or venture capital investments, and some of them are going to pay off with big returns, and some of them are going to have zero return. And there's going to be some wins and some losses. But if you don't try and you don't invest in the future, you're going to be left behind, and the direct sellers are really going to dominate the business. So I think it's essential. I think it's exciting. And I couldn't be more optimistic about being an auto retailer today.
Mike Maroone, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And again, continued congratulations to you, your family, and your organization on all the success.
Ted, thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of Fixed Ops Roundtable and really appreciate what you bring to the industry.
Mike Maroone, everybody, here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Get your dealership mobile service ready at the next Fixed Ops Roundtable pop-up event happening live at Beaux-Arts Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine, Florida. Please join us on Thursday, October 17th. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok. We'll see you soon.
Cannonball! Jump right back into the Fixed Ops Roundtable Summer Palooza event.
It wouldn't be a summer palooza without a lifeguard on duty. Don't sweat, because we've got the AutoMax TechVengers panel up next.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It's that time of the event for the fan favorite, the AutoMax Recruiting and Training TechVengers panel, led by none other than the TechVenger himself, Joe Lockard, who's the owner-operator. Joe, welcome back to the event.
Thanks, Ted. We're a fan favorite?
Oh, by all means, maybe the favorite. Yes.
I don't do it for the accolades. I'm just here for the enjoyment of the panel. I didn't realize there was such a buzz. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, you got a star-studded panel here. I could see that. You got a great topic today.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
I'm going to let you get right into it, Joe. So
All
I'll
right.
step off and I'll see you back towards the end. Here we go.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, Ted. All right. Hey, everybody. Always like to go around the room here if it is your first time joining us. I think this is our 11th time doing this together as a group. We've added and dropped some along the way here. So I want to go around the room real quick, and then we'll get into this topic. Jim Sabino, I want to start with you. Jim is Fixed Ops Director for All American Ford in Paramus, New Jersey. Jim, how are you? How's Jersey?
I'm very good, Joe. Things are well here in Jersey. We're doing well. Glad to be a part of your panel again. This is one of my favorite panels, and just listen, look at this panel. It's coast to coast, and there's a tremendous amount of talent representation of the TechVengers panel, and great topic. Such a great topic we cover on this panel.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it, Jim.
Thanks for having me.
Next is Marco Zwanenburg. Marco is our resident world-class technician, 25 plus years, currently down at Naples Luxury Imports. How are you, my friend? Always good to see you.
I am doing just great, Joe. Glad to be back on the panel. Glad to have some fun with you guys, and curious to see how we can handle and tackle this next subject coming up.
Absolutely. We're going to get around here. We'll jump right in, and always curious to hear what you have to say. Thanks for joining us, Marco.
My pleasure.
Next up, Robert Migliaccio, Robert Service Director for CMA Valley Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Stanton, Virginia. How are you, Robert?
Doing well, sir. Good to be back, Joe. Really enjoy this panel. And as Ted said, it's hard to go out in public anymore. Everybody recognizes us, so it's been interesting.
Well, look, there's this panel in it of itself, and then you guys do such a great job on social media as well. I enjoy following all your personal lives on social media as well. So, yeah, you're famous. You're all big time now. Sorry. All right, sir. Thanks for being here. Next, I want to go to Shon Kingrey. Shon is VP of Fixed Operations for Kaiser Automotive Group. Shon got married recently, everybody. Round of applause for Shon.
I definitely outkicked my coverage. Thanks for the welcome. It's funny. I'll say it. And a few people like Marco and Tully have met Kathy. So, actually, Tully tried to recruit her for the record. But anyway, it's funny. Real quick, I'm going to follow what Mig said. I just got back from a 20 group, very large group, Ford group, strong NCM Ford group, and we were talking about it was on service. It was about recruiting. And this panel, by the way, was a big topic of the conversation. Nice. And during the best ideas, they played a portion of this panel during the 20 group.
Wow, that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that, man. It's the energy, the synergy. It's tough, right? I mean, we got to come up with new stuff to come up with, and once we jump into it here, it gets rolling, and everyone seems to get a little better. I appreciate you being part of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, congrats again, man. It's awesome. You look extremely happy over there from what we can see on social media.
It hasn't started snowing yet, so we're okay.
All right, thank you, sir. Next, Tom Drzezinski. Tom is Director of Service Operations for Western Automotive Group. Tom, I talk about every time the beard, man. It is just glorious. It's if it's not getting bigger, it's getting prettier every time we get on here.
Soon enough, I'm going to have to sit way back so you can see the whole thing,
Yeah, it doesn't even fit. All right. Thank you. Thank you for being here with your beard. We really appreciate it. Always a ton of knowledge in here. Thank you, Tom.
Absolutely.
Next is Mike Weldon. Mike is the former Fixed Ops Director for the Hansel Automotive Group in Santa Rosa. Happily retired and still gracing us with his presence. Yes. How are you, my friend?
Wonderful. I'm spending more time investing in this topic or subject matter. I've carried it through my entire career because I thought it was one of the most important things to communicate, to retain technicians and build your value and build the growth and get the retention. And it's afforded me some opportunities now, just not to do the things I love doing, but also still stay vested in the business.
Yeah. Big picture, kind of just broader thinking stuff and how you can still have an impact on it. And we appreciate you still coming around and hanging out with us, my friend. Last but never least, it's Tully Williams from the Fixed Ops Director for the Nilo Company in Sacramento, California. How are you, my friend?
Fantastic. You know what makes this panel great? It starts with hours, and you can't have any hours with what? Without great technicians. You got to remember, Fixed Ops Roundtable is all about it starts where? It starts in the shop. making sure you have great technicians. That's the reason why this panel is so important. And I love what Shon said, 20 groups should listen, because 20 groups usually are trying to say how you save 4 cents on a screw. I want to say, how do I hire another tech?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Control that unapplied time, Tully.
That's right. Let's get into it here. Let's jump into it. As I say every single week, we have so much to get to, so I want to try and jump in as fast as we possibly can. Another great topic today. Majority of our discussions on this panel have always centered around, like we said, both recruiting and retaining your current technicians. Both are very important, both vital to running a successful service department. Today, I want to kind of dig a little deeper on that dynamic and the relationship between recruiting technicians and retaining your current technicians. And in particular, does recruiting technicians have a negative impact on retaining your current team of technicians? If so, how can that be avoided? Look, guys, regardless of how strong a leader all of you are, regardless of the culture, the pay plan, all that good stuff, all the things that we talk about, you will lose valuable technicians along the way, ideally, 30-year guys through retirement. But whatever the reason, it does happen. I've built a 28-year company off of it over here. It's a need, right? It's going to happen. So when that need pops up at some point, as it will, how can you make sure that it doesn't hurt, what's probably most important, and that's the relationship with your current team and the culture of your current team of technicians. Tully Williams, I promised you I'd start with you. You always end up last because you're such a great closer. You wrap it up for us. You bring the enthusiasm. I'm going to give you first crack tonight. In your many years of experience, has aggressive recruitment of, let's say high-level technicians had an impact on your current team of techs in any way, whether positive or negative?
So think about this. Are you desperate for technicians? And the answer is, I am not. I'll say it one more time. I am not desperate for technicians. Why? Because we grow within. Yes, does a technician walk up to the door and says, Jesus came down and said, you're the place to go, I'm going to hire that guy. I'll figure it out. But the most part is that's not the case. And I think when we value technicians, and this is a great topic, because if you bring in too many, or you bring in a person that's a sour apple, you will destroy a shop. Two is that if we build technicians within, a shop assistant to an hourly then to a flat to a diag, and then to a foreman, what happens is the team builds together. There is no, this is the new guy coming in. Yeah. What is he going to do, right? So our goal is, how do we develop technicians? Two, do you have space in your shop, right? The goal is that we're out of stalls in most of our stores. If not, we're trying to figure out how do we share stalls, and there's no blank stalls anymore. So I think when you look at it is, how is your internal program to grow technicians? So what am I looking for? Shop assistants. I'm looking for hourlies that are in schools. I'm looking for those people to come in so they can be mentored by my foremans and other technicians that like to mentor technicians, build them up together, so I don't have the problem that you have is when you bring in hot shots that think they know everything and destroy a culture of a store. We work forever to build culture. I even tried to hire Marco to come out to the West Coast because the weather's better. He wouldn't come out. But the goal is that we want to work out is, how do we get quality people, and the way we do it, grow within, keep the culture strong.
Right. So in your eyes, it's not so much just about the relationship between recruiting and retention. It's the terms of why you're recruiting. If you're, being reactive instead of proactive, and you get to that pain point that you have to have somebody to fill a huge need, that's when the problems arise.
And don't get yourself into that situation. I think it's much easier to find kids that want to be technicians and make a ton of money, right? Yeah. I think it's easier to find that. So what I work on is, when my org charts go out on a weekly basis, if nobody has shop assistants or hourlies, I'm upset, because to me, that's what a lot of people are thinking. I need a flat rate. I don't need any flat rates. I want to look at shop assistants that are not on the clock. They're not part of my forecast, right? I'm looking for hourlies. I'm looking for people that we can grow, so they grow the culture and they fit in. If I bring an outsider in, I'm going to say, Marco, I'll still bring you in, bro. But the whole goal is that if I bring an outsider in and he disrupts the shop, you're screwed. Doesn't matter how big your shop is. It could be a 5-techer or a 40-techer. It doesn't matter. You'll destroy the shop. So 100% agree is retention is the best. Bringing new people in can destroy a shop if it's not done right.
Gotcha. Right. And, you know, it's funny. We were talking before the show, and I said, "Hey, this is a tough one for me because this is our whole business model is recruiting technicians." But I've come across this a lot, and that is something that comes up. Of yeah, I need a Chrysler Level 3 technician, but if they're going to come in and it's going to cost me 2 other technicians, you know, it's not zero sum game; it's negative sum game. So it's certainly something to be considered. Thanks, Tully. Appreciate it. Robert, I want to come to you next. You know, we've spoken on here many times. You know, I love the things that you do, and everyone sees it on social media to build a relationship with your team. You know, so obviously you value that. That's really important to you. Have you seen your efforts to possibly bring in a new technician affect those current relationships, or you know, is it maybe a situation where your culture is so strong that when you bring someone in, everybody, you know, is going to accept them because they're now part of the team? What dynamic have you seen between the strong relationship and culture you already have in place and then trying to bring in new people that are going to have to align with that culture?
No, absolutely. That's just it. You know, who's going to align, who's going to work with the culture is the biggest part of it. You know, the model set of what we've kind of turned to is very similar to how Tully is. We're growing from within. We're not looking for the level 3 technician at this point right now. You know, we have guys that are there. We want to see the ones that are coming up through, get to that position and fulfill where we're at. You know, when we posed this question, my thought was a mindset I had even when I first started being a service manager was I was so afraid to hire guys that were going to be paid more than my guys have been there for a number of years. You know, how are you going to bring in somebody who has no experience in that brand and pay them more than what you had there? So, you know, we've turned to look at that culture fit situation and really utilized how we're growing our own technicians within the shop. And then ultimately how we're going to bring new people in that are part of that, which is they're part of the interview process for me now. So I'm not interviewing the technician when they come in if they have experience or if they're joining our shop. That's going through my shop foreman and my other lead technicians in the shop. They're going to assist me in interviewing and seeing if this is a culture fit, or if, like Tully said, if this is going to be a cancer right off the bat and if it's just going to create havoc. Because filling that void sometimes is only going to work in those minimal states. It's not going to make it actually stay fulfilling for the shop. And then you're constantly just going to be in the turn cycle of trying to get it right. And as you said, Joe, you're going to then push out the wrong people. You have somebody with good culture fit that then gets burned out over the stress of the new person that's there or the situations that are going in, or that person just brings about negativity into the shop. And it's not all the time, but a good majority of the time, that's where it is. So for us, it's just been a real big focus to make sure everybody's a part of the situation of who we're bringing in, ultimately to the family. Like, you got to be part of it. You got to be willing to be in for what it is. And realistically, growing the technicians that we have up into that right now has been the best form of it. It does allow you to have a little more freedom in who you're bringing in too, because you can try some different things out. They may not be a right fit for the shop. You may have something else for them. But ultimately we can kind of get a good taste for what they are and not disrupt the shop in that overall aspect of where we're kind of trying to grow to.
Yeah, I got you. And kind of hitting on the same thing as Tully of staying ahead of it, right? You mentioned the pay stuff. It's tough. I've had these conversations with dealers where there's a multiple need at a high skill level, and it's, you know, what are you talking for pay? What can you do? I don't know. What are guys making? And I mentioned to you guys before, I'm a big economics guy. I'm a big supply and demand guy. It changes a lot, and you don't really know until you start talking and you know, get the pulse on what the people that are available are willing to listen to the offer have to say. And if it's $5 more an hour than what your top guy that's been there for 20 years is making, what do you do? I mean, what's the move there? There's lose there. I mean, you're either giving the entire shop a raise, or you just continue to run minus a couple big time techs that you need to have there. So it's staying ahead of those problems, like you guys both said, so you're not put in that situation more than anything. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it.
No, absolutely.
Shon, I'm coming to you next. And so we've worked together. You know, we worked together down in Florida. We've worked together in Wisconsin, and we talked. You know, we talked about it on the show, and we talked about it. I mentioned you when you're moving up there. It's kind of a different ballgame getting people to move to a colder climate. It's just different, right? I don't mind it. I love the snow. I love cold weather, but it's just not everyone's cup of tea. So I know sometimes, we've had to take extreme measures just to get people to the table. Do you think there's times that maybe we can go too far in our efforts to bring on a big technician?
Well, and I'm going to go back to the 20 group today because it's obviously fresh in my mind because we discussed it today. Guys, the culture's changed, especially up here in the Midwest. And I'm not excluding because, by the way, Tully, Marco's coming to Wisconsin anyway, so just that doesn't matter. But
that would be a win, man. That would be a major coup right there.
Good weather and good pay. He's coming out here. I'm telling you.
It's nice here a couple months out of the year. But anyway, here's what we're up against. Again, Minneapolis and Chicago have very strong unions. And I know it's weird to think that technicians or advisors are union, but they are. But sitting in the 20 group right now, the union guys are better than we are. And here's the reason why. They're at a set dollar amount at $38 or $39 a flat rate hour. Guys, we're interviewing people at $58 a flat rate hour right now, and they're not coming.
Yeah.
They said, why would I leave for 58? I'm making 58 where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to respond to that. Part of it's our own fault because of this warranty uplift we're doing, getting $300 that were per warranty hour. The techs know that, by the way, and they want a piece of it. So we've kind of created this culture. We have to shift our mindset. And that's literally, which was supposed to be an hour long, turned into a 4.5 hour long conversation where we did watch one of the panels about what do you do back to what they've said. You got to grow them from within. And Joe, we're not trying to take away from your business model. But
our business will always be there. You're good. You're good.
No, but the business model has changed to the fact of where's that limit? Because to your point, I walk into the shop, I'm going to pay a guy, by the way, it's Portage, Wisconsin, which means nothing to anybody. But Portage, Wisconsin is about the size of this screen, okay? And he's a guy who's a level 3 technician making $58 an hour, legit, turning hours, and has 5 weeks vacation. Yeah. What do you do with that?
Yeah.
Tell him to walk into one of my stores, which then, we say, it doesn't get out. Nobody will find out. Yeah, okay. Everybody knows it the minute he walks in the door, what he's making. And now you're going and getting everybody raises, and now your margins are all screwed up. And again, it's a never-ending battle that at some point in time, you got to stand up and say, what are we going to do? What are we going to do to change our business model to stop this from going on? Because it's out there, and it's really, really strong in Chicago. And then I'll stop talking. There's a gentleman in our group from Chicago. They're talking about going to the union. They're going to make the techs rent bays like barbers.
Oh, wow.
They're going to charge them. They're going to charge them rent. I know, Tully, you laugh, but guys, they're trying to change the business model because they don't know where it ends at this point. They're going to charge them stall space.
That could work. I don't hate that idea. That could work.
Okay, Mark goes, we're not going to charge you stall rent. Come out here to California.
Hey, I'm letting him move in my house. So just stop talking, Tully. No, but guys, and again, I probably didn't answer the question. I don't know that I have an answer even after the.
No, there's not. Yeah. I mean, there's no right or wrong here. It's complicated.
I don't know what to do. It's gone from 35 to 58 in a year's time.
Yeah.
And again, I think part of it's our fault with this warranty labor rate thing that's gotten out to be such a big deal that I pound my chest and send Tully emails and texts every now and then about how I'm getting these approvals. But the techs are aware of it, and again, they rightfully so deserve a piece of it. I'm not saying they don't deserve it. But where's the cap? Where is the end at? And I don't know where it's at yet.
Yeah. Well, and so you brought up a lot of great points there. And this is something that I hear a lot, and I used to say a lot, where I'm asked, well, what's going rate? And I'll tell them I can't pay that. My top guy's not making that. And I would always come back and say, well, you don't think they're going to hear that or be aware of that? It doesn't matter. They've got people that aren't Joe Lockard from other companies coming at them and offering that number. So it's like, what do you do? So now it comes back again. And I know it sounds corny, it sounds cliche, but we keep talking about culture, because if you can't match that dollar amount with a new hire, it means you also can't match that dollar amount with your current technicians. So now there has to be a reason other than that dollar amount that they're staying with you. I mean, forget hiring new ones. If they could go make that money somewhere else, there has to be a reason. They have to feel so strong about being where they're at that they don't want to go take $10 an hour just to go somewhere else and chase a paycheck. And that's, I think, part of that mindset change that you're talking about.
My guy in Chicago won the best group idea. He sent 35 pizzas to Tully's dealership, okay? To the techs. He sent 35 pizzas inside of every one of the pizza boxes, now hiring at $60 a flat rate hour.
No kidding.
He got 3 techs out of it.
No kidding.
He did. And good idea or bad idea, I don't know, but he won the pot today over it. I'll say that.
That's funny. That's proactive, man. It's so funny. I'm always, and we'll move on here, but I'll get asked, hey, what should we put in the ad? I'm like, you could put $100 an hour in the ad. It doesn't matter because no one's going to see it. You're putting the pizza box in front of someone's face. They're seeing that, right?
Right.
I mean,
of course, I thought about Marco with the pizza, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah.
You got to send it with the steaks now.
There you go. Wild times for sure. Thanks, Shon. Appreciate it. Jim, I want to come to you next. I'm familiar with your market. We have our roots in New Jersey, and it can be a brutal market, highly, highly competitive market, massive concentration of dealerships within, top to bottom of the state. I mean, you're only talking 3.5 hour drive top to bottom, and just a ton of competition. So, as we talked about, not only are you trying to find new talent, add to the team, but you're fighting off those attempts to have people stolen from your stores, like I just talked about. Have you ever found that, in your efforts to backfill, even if it's, hiring lower level and growing technicians, do you maybe lose some of that focus on retention? And again, talking about how recruiting and getting so locked into recruiting can have a negative effect on your attention. What have you seen in your market?
Correct. So, Joe, yes, it is. We're in a very dense, populated area. We're in the tri-state area. So there's a lot of competition, a lot of dealerships around. Retention is so important. You can never lose focus of that during your search and your recruitment efforts. Because what you're going to do is you're going to get your good employees starting to questioning, your loyalty to them. And I've worked here for 8 years, and I've given you everything, and I've done everything you asked me. Have I stayed late? I come in on weekends, on my weekends off, and now you're going to hire somebody with a gigantic sign-on bonus, or they're going to get $3 or $4 more an hour than I've been getting. So it's kind of you really, really have to be aware of your recruitment efforts and how that's going to impact your in-place technicians, to keep that retention strong. You want, obviously you want to treat your current employees correctly. You want to pay them correctly. You want to pay them well, not correctly. You want to pay them well. You want to, completely reinforce the appreciation that you have for them and their skill set that they bring to the table. You want to encourage training on new models and just, to advance, whether it's electronics, into HVAC, into drivability, into transmission repairs. EVs, very, very popular topic lately. So there's a lot that you have to set the course and keep them on track for the training and long-term play here. You want to take your trainees and your C-level technicians, as we call them, apprentices, and you want to make sure that you mentor them up with the right senior level guys, shop foremans with the right attitudes. Because as we all know, there are some technicians that are really great and love and have a passion for what they do, and others are maybe not as passionate as others, and they may send the wrong message.
Right, just punch the clock. Absolutely.
They may send the wrong message to a young, very influential. You don't want to influence the young guys in the wrong direction. You want to keep their head on, long-term play. The responsibility that they have in their bays for multi-point inspections and to report to the service advisors the accurate reports. If we're doing video MPIs, you want them to be on video. So that's the face of your dealership and your service department when the customer gets that video. Recruitment is I believe what Tully and Robert and Shon were saying, promoting from within, take their lower level, your new hires, and create your employees that way, the advancement that way. Hiring technicians is an incredibly hard, almost impossible task. And, even working with AutoMax, with your organization, I stay very active with trade schools. We have 3 big ones in this area. I sit on advisory boards. I actively go to career fairs. I go and talk to classrooms of recent graduates that will be happening within a month. I go and I have a talk with them. I know all the instructors there. So I have a very good relationship, and sometimes we get lucky and we get 1 or 2 good ones, and sometimes we don't. They may not, they may last 90, 60, 6 months, whatever it is. So be very cautious. Be very cautious that you don't alienate your current rank and file. You really don't want to. You want to keep them, positive and say, hey, this is a great place to work, and I would continue here for as long as I can, and I want to advance within the organization.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely. You hit on a bunch there. First thing, absolutely, recruiting technicians is a grind. Guys, there's a reason that we've seen I can count on, 20, 30 different recruiting companies come and go. It's not a lot of fun to sit here and grind away and try to recruit technicians across the country. It's tough. You mentioned a couple things I want to talk about here. Training current employees, getting them up to speed. And I think within that, there's got to be a lot of honesty and just full disclosure when you do have to go out and find those technicians. Guys, the growing techs from within is great. There's going to be times you have to hire a higher level technician. And I think if you're honest with your team and they know their career path and you explain to them, hey, here's why I'm bringing this master tech on. Here's why he's making X more than you are, because these are his accomplishments. These are his certifications. We're going to get you there. But just showing them why you're bringing this person on, why it's going to be important, and what they can do to get to that level. So again, it's not all negative, right? There should be some synergy here. There has to be room for bringing on high-level technicians because it is going to happen at times.
And some of them will understand. And you know what? Honestly, 3 years ago, we implemented retention bonus across the board on every single fixed ops employee, from the cashiers, valets, up to our senior level technicians, advisors, service managers, parts managers. Retention bonus 3 years ago, one of the best decisions we ever did. It's a lot of money. I mean, it's not like West Her has like 44 dealerships or something. That's a lot of money. We have, 4 rooftops. And it was one of the best decisions we made from the dealer down. And every single fixed ops employee gets a retention bonus in December, and it works. It works really, really well.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate
Sure.
it.
Thank you.
Tom, I want to come to you next. We spoke here before the show, and I know you have some personal experience with this, and not necessarily in a good way. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that one still hurts my heart. I'll tell you. Shortly after I first get into the position that I'm in now, one of our Dodge stores, we had a local power company, essentially very aggressive in recruiting our technicians, and we had 3 that went, and they were big hour turners. They're all level 3 technicians. And we're going into summer. I'm watching schedules push further and further out, trying to get customers in. And at the time, I didn't have the recruiting director that I have now. So it really was my job to help that service manager fill the shop. And we truly need Dodge technicians. So cap students and building at that time was not an option. We needed trained technicians. I knew one, and I knew he was fantastic. And I'm the kind of guy, like I'm a bulldog. If I want to go after somebody, I'm gonna get him. I'm not gonna stop until I get there. Well, with this guy, he lived way out, was, starting a young family, so he was concerned with the drive. And I just kept going dollars. And it was not so much about the culture and the things that we promote now. It was strictly money. So I finally get to the number where he cannot say no, comes on board, and of course. I'm used to times when people didn't talk about what they made. You just didn't, Now everything is so transparent that those conversations come up constantly. So of course he starts to talk about what he's being paid. And ultimately it cost me one of my absolute favorite human beings in the world. Like hours I'm sorry, Tully, I should have muted before I said that. Hours aside, he was one of the greatest young men that we had in our company. Pete Thompson, I got to say the name from time to time just to remind myself and feel that pain. Yeah, but he came to me before he left and he said, "Hey, am I not worth that?" And I'm trying to explain. I'm like, "Pete, you are every bit of it. I'm going to get you there. I promise you, buddy." But I use you talk supply and demand. The analogy I use is if you needed a bottle of water, you want a bottle of water, I have it, and I tell you it's going to be $100. You're going to tell me to go pound salt. But now if we're in the desert and you're dying, and this bottle of water is going to keep you alive, and I go, okay, you can have it. It's $100. You're going to gladly pay me $100 for it.
Right.
And that was the position that we were in. And even at that point, that damage had been done. So, one of the things now, and I could talk about this whole topic for hours on its own. One of the big things now is make sure you understand your market. Know what people are paying around you. Don't be afraid to give your technicians raises in the middle of the year. Don't make them wait until their review comes due, or, they got one 4 months ago. So now you're going to make them wait another 8 months, even though you know that they're underpaid for the market around you. Understand the nice thing, it's good and bad about our industry, is it's a small world. So I guarantee you, everybody, service managers, people in other stores that are in your area, get a feel for what's out there. Make sure that your technicians are making what they should make for your area. And if they're not, then you have to just bite the bullet and bring them up, or you're going to find yourself in that mark where, hey, this shop down the street is going to pay $20 more an hour. Shame on you if your techs are $20 under the technicians around the corner.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thanks for being honest. I'm glad you shared that with us, because it does happen. I'm telling you guys, like I said, 28 years we've been doing this. We spend a lot of time recruiting high-level technicians. Mm-hmm. So I know those situations are out there, and that's my line. I mean, that's what I tell our clients when they say, hey, I can't afford that. I hear you, but we've talked to 3 different candidates now, and they're telling you that it's the number 60. I'm not the only person out here doing this. Every time we work a lot with Audi, and we get an Audi technician, and he's like, yeah, I'm talking to 4 or 5 other people. I'll talk to your guy, and he picks the best one. So there are options out there. That's part of a capitalist society. That's the way it goes. Yeah, you can't get everybody 100% where they want to be, but like you said, if you're way off, you're off by $20. You're going to have much bigger problem than one technician at that point. So being aware of what's going on in your market and adjusting as needed is huge for retention. Appreciate it, Tom. Thank you. Mike, I'm coming to you. And we talked about at the start of the show, you being somewhat retired, have obviously put in a number of years, and you've probably seen just about everything. We've talked at length about the great pride that you took within the Hansel organization and the culture of your shop. Obviously, that has to be first priority. But when it is one of those 911 needs, and you need, whether it's 1, 2, 5 technicians, how can we try to separate that from the team and make sure it doesn't have a trickle-down effect to hurt the overall morale of the shop?
Well, first off, you try not to let yourself get into that position.
Yeah.
I feel for Tom. I know it. I've seen it. I've got friends that have gotten themselves boxed into that same position, and we've had conversations. Let's talk about reverse economics. Technicians, in my book, and Marco's heard me say this a number of times, technicians are assets. Take care of your assets.
Yeah.
Control the other controllables that you have within your business. Effective labor rate, estimated jobs estimated right, unapplied time, right, Tully? Selling those hours. You can compensate people within your market. Tom, you're right. Study your market. Know what's out there. Talk to your friends and other businesses out there. What is going on? Build some relationships. And hiring outside I've never won doing that. I sit on the California State Apprenticeship Board for 15 years, and it was in cahoots with the union, of course. California is a union, somewhat union-run state, or their mythology is. And I will tell you that I learned from their mythology and the way that they thought, and I went out and reversed the way I thought and built those relationships with those techs, so I didn't have that turnover, and I brought guys up. I'm very prideful of what we've done. I've taken detailers and lot porters, and they're now journeyman technicians. And they're telling me they're so excited they're getting ready to buy a house. And man, anything I can do to help you get into that house, when you're not having to rent. But you got to take care of your business, and you don't repress your valuables. You want that net. I understand you want that net, but control the controllables and take care of your assets.
You bet. And I love the term asset, right? I mean, what's an asset do? It returns income. So, if you want to get down to past the culture stuff and the human element, it is an asset, and human capital is an asset, and technicians are a big part of that. So even if you are hiring from outside, and it comes to offer time, or it comes to, what are you going to do for me? Don't look at it as, man, I got to spend all this money on them. It's, I'm investing in this asset because they're going to make the shop a ton of money.
And train your tech. I mean, make sure that he has all the tools available.
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't matter if Marco came to California and worked for me, and it's nice out here, Marco, and it doesn't rain a lot.
Work for me.
And we don't have any snow, at least in the area that Tully and I live.
Go Wisconsin.
I would tell you that if he's making a good income, I can guarantee you the company's making a good income.
Sure. Right.
So
we're
we're just sharing it.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Buffalo's going to win the Super Bowl this year, Marco. Don't you want to be where the winners are? Just saying.
Robert's going to win because he's the only one not sitting there saying anything, guys. I mean,
we don't have any games that I know of that we can sell. we got great weather year round. That's all I can say.
All right, I want to get to Marco here. Marco, I saved you for last on purpose because you usually get to go first. And I like setting the tone. I want to hear what the tech has to say. Today I figured, let's let the suits have their say, and then I want to get your response on all that as a technician who's on the other side of this and does have, as we're seeing on this panel, you got people coming to you. I personally never tried to recruit you. I said anytime you want to, we talked about you taking possibly the next step in your career as a foreman, but I know that you have people in your ear. What do you see from the other side of that, and how recruiting can affect the culture in a shop?
Right. I think, Joe, first of all, that I think this panel recaps everything we have been talking about. It just nails it on the head. My question would be, why do you need a technician? Do you have an underperforming shop? Do you have inefficiencies? Or are you at max capacity and you just need more? If that's the case, you're going to have to take care of the people you have first. In my opinion, retention is recruiting. And if you're talking about, we can't pay him $60, can you afford not to?
Yeah.
Where are you going to be 2 years down the road when now you got nothing left because you worked everybody out the door? I mean, if I had to make a $10,000 upsell and I only get to pocket 6% of that, where's the other 94% going?
Right.
Did the rest of the people in the store have to buy tools and knowledge and training, etc.? There's something wrong with that picture. So that would be my first thought is, okay, why are we recruiting? Now, another important thing is that we are all human beings. You put some sort of change in it, our first response is going to be like, oh my stars, no. It has to, no. It was like, so that's your first shock. But if you have, by the way, guys, what's the main reason I do not leave my current job? Culture,
where you're
right?
treated, right? You've taught us over and over.
Exactly. It is culture. It is how I'm treated, how I'm respected. I feel at home there. You can't put a price on that. But something like that will revert to the outside. People will feel that this is a good place to work for. In previous times when I went on job interviews and I look through the shop and I'm not allowed to talk to other technicians or come to find out there's a high turnaround, I don't want to. I don't want to at all. But, you got to pay your people. You can't afford not to.
Yeah.
You keep jacking your door rates. You keep jacking your labor rates. But, you're telling me like, it's not in the budget this year.
Yeah. Well, you a great point that you bring up over and over and over again, and it's that full disclosure thing, right? Where it's, the money's got to be in line, but you might not have to go to top dollar and make it completely about the money if you're honest and you bring them in and you let them talk to your Marcos and you let them feel the shop and you let them see, hey, I can't give you 60. I just can't. I can give you 58, right? But I'd like for you to at least come in, talk to Marco, see how the shop runs. And if they get it, then it's a win for everybody. If they don't get it, it's probably not your person anyway, right? They don't value that as much, and it's not worth it to them, and that's a win for everybody too, right?
Absolutely, it's a two-way street to feel that part out. So no, you're absolutely correct about that, and you don't have to pay top dollar. Like I've always said, all I need is a fair chance to make a living.
Sure.
If you don't pay me $60 an hour, it's like I don't make it $60 an hour.
Yeah.
Could I? Possibly.
Yeah.
Do I want to? No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm making pretty good living and I'm well respected.
There you go. Thank you, Marco. Appreciate it, sir.
My pleasure.
And thanks for being patient. I know it's probably killing you sitting over there the whole time.
Oh, no, it's like waiting for warranty pay. Patience, it's no problem there.
Thanks, guys. Great panel. I know we've said it over and over, and we've had so many of these, and hey, it's our best one. It's our best one. And you're right, Marco. This was kind of a bring it all together. We've talked. I don't want to say we've talked about everything. There's always something new to talk about. We've talked about so much. A lot of it's rehashing, but to go deeper and get at the real dynamics and complexities of what's going on day to day in our world is very interesting. I appreciate it.
Joe, just to watch the evolution of the people on this panel, and let's keep in mind that things change too. All right.
Yeah.
Everybody on this panel, you can see them have gotten better and better at their craft. Some of the great stories that have been shared on this panel. Tom, your story as well. Everybody wants to hire Mark. I knew you were going to have your hat in the ring, Tom, on that one. Only one I haven't heard is Jim Sabino, but he may be making a deal that we don't know about. But Joe, with things changing, stores do need technicians, okay, at different times. Yeah. And like Tom said, that bottle of water sometimes, I gotta make the move to get that. So
yeah, no, I said at the beginning, I'm like, this is kind of a funky topic for us because I knew it was going to come back to recruiting's great, but ideally let's not recruit, and that's my livelihood there. But I our need's always going to be there. And my win is for the industry to, take care of themselves, and for, hey, we just need to recruit some good human beings for technicians. Can you help us with that? Absolutely, we can help with that. So it doesn't matter what the need is. We're always going to be here. We're not going anywhere. So.
And Joe, you've given a voice. The people on this panel are among the best in the industry. Okay.
Right.
They've done things right. All right. And that's obvious. All right. Joe, if our audience wants to find out more about AutoMax recruiting and training, what you can do. I know you've worked with most all the leaders on this panel. How do we do it?
Yeah, sure. We're all over social media. You can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook, of course, or you can go to the website, automaxrecruitingandtraining.com. My cell phone's down there at the bottom. Always welcome to call me direct on my cell phone. I'm always here, always looking to help in any way I can.
Joe, thank you for putting all this together. Appreciate what you do with the industry. Tully Williams, Robert Migliaccio, Shon Kingrey, Mike Weldon, Jim Sabino, Marco Zwanenburg, and Tom Drzezinski. The best of the best with Joe Lockard. AutoMax Recruiting and Training, everybody. You can reach them on the web. You can see the URL in the ticker down below. Joe's email is there. Joe, is that your number, the 609-705-8646?
609, South Jersey.
All right. Very good. Everybody, the AutoMax TechVengers panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
At AutoMax Recruiting and Training, we've helped recruit, screen, and place over 180,000 retail automotive professionals in every department. Along with our robust in-person training programs, with AutoMax, you'll be pushing the hire button in no time. AutoMax Recruiting and Training. Any other retail automotive talent search is positively primitive.
I'm out here today appraising and buying cars from total strangers using just two things, our AccuTrade mobile app and our Bluetooth OBD2 scanner. That's all we need in order to give them a 100% instant offer guaranteed by AccuTrade. So let's tell Maeve what her vehicle is worth and what we're willing to write you a check for.
Let's do it. No way!
Right?
No! I might want my check.
Okay. We can. That's all it takes.
Did you know the online parts market is expected to hit $35 billion by 2030? The demand for online parts is high, and only 25% of dealers are currently selling parts online through a dedicated parts web store. This means there's a big revenue potential for your dealership to get into online parts sales. While this might seem daunting to get started, we've prepared some tips on how you can best incorporate online parts sales into your current business strategy. Unlike traditional sales tactics, selling parts online helps your dealership sell outside its local market and reach customers nationwide. In fact, millennials and Gen Z now make up nearly 60% of online parts shoppers, and this number is growing according to an e-commerce shopper behavior report from Revolution Parts. These generations grew up with more access to the internet than any generation prior and saw consumer digital engagement expectations evolve alongside Amazon, which revolutionized online shopping globally. For them, a smooth shopping journey often takes precedence over significant discounts, as millennials and Gen Z prioritize convenience above everything else. The impact of these younger buyers on the parts industry is growing, and this shift emphasizes the importance of selling parts online. The next piece you need to consider is how you're going to drive revenue by selling parts online. One of the most important elements is choosing the right platform. Some of the key questions you should be asking your provider are, does it simplify the managing and fulfillment of orders? Does it provide a smooth customer experience? Does it guarantee fitment? Does it provide a smooth checkout process? And does it have quality images and detailed product descriptions to attract more buyers? And finally, it's important to look at how your business reaches the online market. Be sure to focus on volume over margins by pricing your items to be more competitive. This will help you sell more parts. While it feels comfortable to focus on margins, you make up the difference in volume and shipping. Customers also want to know you're a business they can trust. Providing great customer service will bring customers back time and time again, driving more revenue and referrals. Would you like to learn more on how you can create revenue in online parts sales? Visit Revolution Parts today at revolutionparts.com to get started.
From beach volleyball to the founder of vAuto, we're serving up our next speaker, Dale Pollak.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Dale Pollak is with us. He is the founder of vAuto, a great name in our industry, extremely relevant topics we're going to be discussing today that are related to fixed operations. Dale Pollak, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted. Good to be with you.
Great to have you. Okay, here we are, Dale. We are now squarely in mid-September, last few days of summer here, and headed into fall at the end of the week. And next thing you know, we're going to blink we're going to be in October, okay? And thought I would ask you, Dale, how would you characterize and compare the current used vehicle market to where we were just a year ago?
Sure. It's been a very good year for used vehicles. I think this year to date, the used car volume is up about 2.5% roughly. So it's been a good year, and I think there's every reason to believe that demand will continue to be strong through the end of the year, particularly since we are now likely going to encounter lower interest rates and better affordability. So I think demand will continue to be strong through the balance of the year. On the wholesale side of the market is somewhat constrained this year, largely because of the 3-year-old vehicles that were not built at least 3 years ago and consequently not being returned to the market. The supply of late model used cars this year is shorter than it was last year. And if you have high demand and short supply, that portends higher wholesale prices and perhaps to a certain extent higher retail prices. So I think the balance of the year looks pretty good for dealers, obviously subject to anything drastically going wrong in the environment.
And there's always a lot of unknowns, yet our dealer audience is extremely resilient. Last couple of years, though, Dale, it's really proven to be a very good time for dealers. And now we're faced with a few changes that are coming into the market, and we'll see how our audience adapts to that.
It is true. Last several years have been perhaps some of the best years that dealers have and maybe ever will see. But the market is still good. We do see some of those same conditions that we saw prior to the pandemic that put pressure on dealers' margins. We do see some of those conditions reappearing. And I think that that's inevitable. But overall, the market is pretty strong, and I think will continue to favor dealers at least for the next 6 months and hopefully longer.
Dale, what about profitability on used vehicles? It's declined. How much have you seen it decline?
Yeah, those conditions that I just spoke of, which are beginning to reappear, are conditions that put pressure on margins. I believe that the J.D. Powers and Associates recently reported that used vehicle front-end grosses were averaging about $1,200, and that represents perhaps a 20% decline. When you include F&I, front and back, I think the front and back end margins are maybe down roughly 13%. So there's definitely pressure on margins.
You know, the last few years, we've seen topics such as used vehicle acquisition on the service drive, things we didn't used to talk about at a Fixed Ops Roundtable. And now it's become front and center, and the importance of that vehicle and how all of this begins with the appraisal. And I look back how what was largely many years ago until vAuto came along, sort of a guess or guesswork, if you will, and it's become much more scientific, Dale, today. I don't know if you'd like to speak to that or not.
Well, you touched on two relevant points. First of all, in the face of an ever more transparent and efficient retail market and pressure on front-end margins, it becomes ever more critical to source vehicles effectively. And what sourcing vehicles effectively means today is sourcing them from not only the traditional channels of auctions and trade-ins, but also those non-traditional channels. And perhaps the service drive, which you mentioned, might be the most opportunistic place to source vehicles. These tend to be those later model cars. People are bringing them in for service, likely warranty. They're certifiable cars. They're the type of vehicles that tend to be in short supply in the broader wholesale market. So yes, sourcing vehicles effectively from non-traditional sources is definitely an important skill for dealers today and for some time to come. But I think it's also important to recognize that what sourcing them for the right money means, and what the right money means is paying money for vehicles that complies or is consistent with dealership strategies. Because there are certain points in time when dealerships want to be very aggressive to build their used vehicle inventory, and that would suggest putting more money in vehicles for acquisition. And there's other periods of time where dealers want to focus on improving their gross profits, which might suggest being more conservative on those appraisals. So, the question of what is the right money for the vehicle is something that I've written extensively about in my book that is soon to come out. And I think it needs to be money that is consistent with the dealership's current strategy of either building inventory or improving grosses or whatever it might come in between.
And Dale, with numerous powertrains now coming into the market these last few years, there's been some wild fluctuation also, for example, in used EV prices. And our dealers have felt that, and they've felt, all kinds of things when it comes to that. I don't know if you'd like to speak to that or not, but it certainly has been a big part of what's going on in the market.
Yeah, used vehicles that are EVs are very difficult to value. I mean, whenever you have a new car manufacturer, in this case Tesla, who has a owner of the company that might wake up tomorrow morning and cut the prices on the new vehicles by $10,000 to $20,000, that obviously is going to have a cascading effect on the used car market. And we've seen this happen, and it's likely to happen again in the future. So dealers are rightfully very cautious and confused about what is the money to put on a used EV. But that said, I think that the uncertainty is so great that dealers often put a huge risk premium into their bid for an EV. And I think that is often detrimental to the dealer to the extent that they don't trade for vehicles and sell new vehicles that they perhaps should because they've been too conservative. But I understand the conservatism and the caution. It's just an unfortunate reality until this EV market sort of matures and settles out and has some consistency, it's going to be a little bit treacherous. But again, I understand the cautious approach that dealers take to appraising these vehicles, but I also understand that too much caution can impede progress of sales.
Sure. Dale, how are dealers adjusting to this changed profitability environment that we're in today?
Dealers are, I think, generally speaking, just coming to realize that the margin compression is back. So I think their reaction to it is perhaps a little bit slower than I might like to think it should be. But dealers are now beginning to realize it, with August and the books behind us and those financial statements closed out. I think it became very apparent to many dealers that they're going to have to start to do some things differently. And, when we talked about sourcing vehicles more effectively from these non-traditional sources is just one way of doing that. I think dealers need to be very conscious about expenses. And I think that dealers need to also understand that each used vehicle represents a unique profile of risk and opportunity. And as such, they should take a varied, or what we call a variable management approach in terms of how we recondition, how we price vehicles based on each individual vehicle's unique risk and opportunity profile.
What a time to be in our business, Dale. The last few years and imagining what's coming up. I don't know if I've seen an exciting time with this many forces, with this many different market conditions that dealers have been faced with. Yet time and time again, Dale, our dealers, I mentioned the word earlier, have proven themselves resilient and adjusting and can think on their feet like very few others can.
Well, you're certainly right. The dealer has proven to be very resilient, impressively resilient. But that said, there's no such thing as the quote unquote used car market anymore. It's not a monolith. Different years, make, models, engine, motor trains, they are all moving in different directions at different times at different speeds. And I think this challenges dealers ever more than it has in the past to quote unquote think on their feet. And yes, it is important to have experience and judgment, but I think in this sort of highly volatile, very technical market environment, I think this is a moment where technology and data science can play a very important role in supplementing effective decision making.
And we see that more and more. We see I just recently did a segment with Patrick Janes from vAuto up at Northwood, and I hear more. He was talking about the OB2 sensor, utilizing that. We had a few dealers with him on the panel, and I hear more and more about this becoming a science where we're getting not just the quote unquote used car manager involved, but more and more people in the dealerships involved in that appraisal process. I don't know if you'd like to speak to that, but it's really opened up a big opportunity, I think, for retailers.
Well, it is a big opportunity and it's a big challenge. There's ever more science that is coming into the used vehicle business. You mentioned the appraisal process, to be sure. A lot of technology is being developed to more effectively assess the condition of a vehicle and ultimately its reconditioning and repair costs. And these are all good things, but they're shaking up the landscape of traditional decision making. And I think that it's important for dealers to be open-minded to these new technologies and systems and embrace them, because those who do are definitely going to have an advantage.
You've talked about the changed environment in terms of profitability for retailers. You and I have been in the business a long time. We know these are cycles. They repeat themselves. What do you recommend dealers do to break the cycle?
Well, I think one of the cycles or one of the trends, maybe more than a cycle, that needs to be understood is the pressure on the return to the dealer of their investments in used vehicles. 10 years ago, the average used vehicle on a dealer's lot would likely have a wholesale value or investment cost of about $11,000. And perhaps the average gross that they made on that vehicle 10 years ago would be about $1,500. So if you sold an $11,000 vehicle, $11,000 invested vehicle in 45 days, made $1,500, that would roughly be about 180% annualized return. Well, fast forward to today, 10 years later, the average vehicle on a dealer's lot, they probably have about $23,000 or more invested in that vehicle. They're selling that vehicle for roughly the same $1,500 front-end gross profit. And if they do that in 45 days, that annualized rate of return is now about 65% roughly. So we've gone over 10 years from a return on a vehicle investment on a dealer's lot, about 180% annualized return to about 65% annualized return. And you can see the trend here, Ted. Every year, the dealer's going to have to invest more money in a used vehicle and likely make about the same or possibly even less front-end gross. So what does that tell us? That tells us that the pressure on the dealer's net margin is ever greater and will continue to grow. So in this environment, I believe what is really important for dealers to adapt is to begin to understand that first and foremost, what they're doing is they're managing capital. They're managing capital in a depreciating market. And yet today, there's very little, if any, basic investment principles baked into our used car management practices. I mean, when you're making 180+% annualized returns, it's good enough just to be a good sales and merchandising person. But when these margins or these returns on investments, I should say, are shrinking as they are and will continue to shrink, I think the imperative for dealers is to bring into their used car management playbook some basic investment management principles. And this is something that I've written about extensively in my upcoming book to come out. This is something that I've built into software that I've recently introduced that actually brings to the industry investment-minded management principles. Again, recognizing that our first and foremost responsibility as used car operators is not just to sell cars, it's to make a net profit. That's why we get paid to operate these departments. Now, granted, we have to sell cars to make a net profit, but ever more with these shrinking returns, what we have to do is we have to sell cars smart. And what selling cars smart requires is introduction of some basic investment management principles into our decision making.
Dale, I like that a whole lot. I want to ask you more about the book in just a moment. If I can come back to that, 10, 15 years ago, I guess it was still okay to manage your inventory with an Excel sheet and as vehicles were coming in off trade. But today, with the numbers that you just mentioned, it's more important than ever. We hear the term, it's almost a cliche, front line ready, and to get that vehicle ready quicker and to put a focus on that and to look at it in the perspective that you're speaking now. Dale, I imagine that's only going to continue to grow with these tools.
For sure. I mean, the clock has always been the enemy of profitability in the used car business because these are depreciating vehicles. But as the market has become more transparent and efficient, the clock runs faster. So consequently, it's important to bring these cars through the reconditioning process to the front line and eventually, ultimately, over the curb much faster than they ever have in the past in order to optimize the ROI. But that said, Ted, what's also very important to understand is that there are some vehicles that it's more important to put those cars over the curb faster than other vehicles. And this is where really the investment principle comes in, and that's recognizing that each used vehicle represents a unique profile of an investment. And some of those investments, for a variety of reasons, are more risky and some are more opportunistic. And those vehicle investments that represent greater risk, those vehicles need to go to the front of the line of reconditioning. And when they come out of the shop, they need to go to the front line with a price that allows them to move and turn very quickly, where there are other vehicles where we have the luxury of a bit more time. And I stress a bit more time because all of the speed of these operations have to be increased. But within that increased speed mindset, there are some vehicles that need to be prioritized over other vehicles. And again, the basic principle of investment management is the ability to recognize which vehicles are which vehicles are which based on their investment profile of risk and opportunity.
Dale, here we are approaching late September. Next thing you know, we're going to be in the fourth quarter. There's a presidential election ahead. And before we know it, it'll be 2025. Given the profitability challenge that you're outlining, what do you see for the audience here today? Key priorities for dealers and retail managers that they need to address in the year ahead?
Well, one of the most basic disciplines of effective and profitable used vehicle management is to keep a proper balance between the number of vehicles that they've sold in the last rolling 30-day period and the number of vehicles that they have in stock. Those two numbers ought to be kept very much in balance. Dealers need to be sure that their reconditioning processes and their appraisal processes are as effective and efficient as possible, because as we all know, that much of the money that we're going to make, much of the return that we're going to earn a used vehicle is based on its acquisition and preparation prior to its eventual sale. And dealers are going to have to get better at reconditioning and acquiring vehicles ever more efficient. And obviously, keeping a good eye on expense control. I don't think that you can cut expenses and save your way into a profit, but you have to make sure that every dollar that you spend is spent wisely and efficiently.
All right. Last question for today, Dale. You mentioned the book. If you don't mind, can you tell us a little more about that? Tell us when it'll be available, what you expect, and I know our audience will be eager to read it.
Sure. The title of the book is Invested, and the subtitle is The New Science, Strategy, and System of Used Vehicle Management. And the premise of the book, as I alluded to earlier, is recognizing the fact that the return on the vehicle investments in this used vehicle business of ours is diminishing and will only continue to diminish. And as it diminishes, the pressure on our net margins of that department are going to become ever greater. So once you realize that the return on the used vehicle investments that we make is shrinking, it really is an imperative for us to understand that strategies of used car management have to begin to incorporate just the most basic investment principles of money management. And ultimately, these used car operations of ours, first and foremost, we're managing capital, we're managing money, as I said, in a depreciating market. Secondly, we're managing merchandise. And up to this point in our industry, because of the large return on these investments, it's been good enough just to be good sales and merchandising managers, and it's still important to do that. But even more important today, and as we go forward in the ever more margin and ROI compressed environment, is that we have to be really good at managing capital, which means basic investment principles. And this is what I introduced in the book, the science of basic used vehicle investment management and how it's translated into the most important elements of used vehicle operations, which are acquiring vehicles effectively and efficiently, appraising them efficiently and properly, and then ultimately pricing them. So in the book Invested, I take the dealers through the recognition of how this market is changing, why it's changing, and how as dealers we need to begin to incorporate basic used vehicle management investment principles into our daily decision-making process. The book will officially debut at NADA 2025 in New Orleans, and we should have some advanced copies by the end of the year.
Right. Dale Pollak with, again, a new way of thinking to help dealers establish clearer, more effective strategic priorities in used vehicle acquisition, appraisals, and pricing. Dale, thank you so much for your perspective, and very honored to have you here with us at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Ted. It's my privilege.
Everybody, for more information on vAuto, you know where to reach them, vAuto.com. They're here on the Roundtable. We have a number of segments. Everybody, Dale Pollak here with us today from vAuto at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
I'm Nick Wright. I'm a lead performance manager with Private Time GPS. Been with the company for 6 years as a performance manager. Car business for 17 years, and I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I made the switch from retail to vAuto. I took the leap to go on the vAuto side just because I could still make a difference in the dealership, still help everyone achieve goals, which is, from a sports guy, that's my goal. All the mistakes that I made in my career or things that I wish I would have known or paid attention to is now my almost mission or pet peeve with every time I get a new client. It's, hey, these are the things that I thought. Here's the things that I perceive this software to do or this system to do, and this is actually what it does. What I hear all the time is, people would say, well, vAuto says, or vAuto is telling me to do this, and a lot of the times we're not telling you to do anything, it's just reading the market and understanding what that market is now presenting to you and the choice that you have to make. So it's essentially understanding how that works and how we can go exist with our plan as a dealer versus what the market is telling me and how I can marry those things together. So I think it's asking the questions that is pertaining to that particular dealer, what are their goals that they want to achieve, and then tailoring our approach and using the software to achieve those goals. The most rewarding part of my job is seeing a dealer that says, hey, I want to sell 100 cars, and they're selling 30, and they have this pie in the sky number of what they want to do per month, and then we look back 3 years later and they're selling 150 and 200, and we laughed at the times that they were selling 30 and said, hey, will we ever get there? So really, it's the change that I make with my dealers. It feels really great to hear them affected.
It wouldn't be a Fixed Ops Roundtable event without this next speaker. Say aloha to John Traver from Traver Connect.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. John Traver is with us. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Traver Connect. It's time for that part of the show that many look forward to. John Traver has been with us on this journey for a long time and has imparted a lot of wisdom and knowledge here at the Roundtable. John, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, what a pleasure to be back on the TED Talk series, right? Summer Palooza, 25 of these guys you've done. So well done. You have been a catalyst for this space for a lot of us, retail side and vendor partner side. So thank you for leading so well. I know we're fired up to move into the fourth quarter here and finish strong in 24.
John, you've been right there with us, and amazing growth. It's amazing to watch this industry, how much change happens every few months, and things that we didn't expect happen and things that you couldn't imagine, and an exciting place to be, John, in retail automotive, especially in the fixed operation space.
I love that you said that. You almost teed me up here today, because that's exactly what I want to talk about today, is making progress in this space of change. It's a wild time for sure. If you're ready, I'm ready, Ted. If you got that slideshow, let's get to our group and let's see if we can start this exchange. Really looking forward to it. Well, team, here we are, and you got 3/4 of the year now pretty much behind you. Summer Palooza is on us. And that had me looking back a little bit on this year. And as I thought about it, I thought to the beginning of the year, NADA in February, we annually have done this VIP client and partner event. We have folks that have been with us a while as clients, and we just take a night where we treat them to dinner and some entertainment. It's an appreciation event. There's no selling. We're just enjoying really the work product that together we share in fixed operations and automotive. And, I look back at that event, and like I said, we like to have a little bit of fun. There's Kaylee, right? And we got her up front. She's in the middle of, well, I forget exactly what Grant Price, our mentalist, was doing, but it was an incredible evening. You see folks were recording, and it was a wild time. Kevin Smith, president at Dynatron, his wife, Silver. And you notice who she's hanging with. That's not Kevin Smith. That's none other than Wolfgang Puck himself. And Ted, when you start hanging around, the right people, all of a sudden there's this magic that can happen. Joe Link, our national director of business development, grabs, Wolfgang and brings him in, and it was a fun night. So that's kind of how we got the year started off. But you notice that T-shirt, Ted, experience matters. Yes. That's our mission at Traver Connect. Experience does matter in this space. In fact, I would argue it's the difference maker in this space. It's kind of our marching orders. It's our why. And as we think about growing our retail footprint, as we think about climbing our way back up the stairs of profitability, there's some downward pressure that our retailers have experienced. How do we do that? What is our marking point as we get out there and make progress in the space? We like to say there's really three components to making experience matters. First of all, it's the consumer, whether it's your customer or your client, however you refer to them, Ted, their experience matters. I want to talk a little bit about that today. Yours would be, to us, our client, and in this case, our job is to take costs out, to remove friction, hopefully enable you with data and some processes that you may not be executing as well on your own. And then ours, in order for us to do this, accomplish this mission, we need the right people. We need people that are experienced at delivering in those two areas. And so that is our mission. Well, enough of that. What I want to ask you today, here's the big question. The question is the mission around you. So whether you're a vendor partner and your job is to enable our dealers, or you're a dealer, what is the mission? And so what may surprise you, Ted, is when you think about the mission, how it's actually defined and what it is, may become a more refined answer when we get done with this message today. What you'll see is that there are some things that are happening in automotive that we would all subscribe to what you said earlier, Ted. There are times of great change. Simple things. What I love about it is they use like real short words, like 2-digit words like AI and EV. I really appreciate that. But certainly those two topics are big topics for small words. And then you get to the 4-letter words like data. Data has become more of a thing as we've seen what's happened here in 2024. And then margins. I mentioned margins earlier, but there's definitely a downward compression on the net income at each organization. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is, look, all of these things are obvious. We know these things are going on, but that sort of tees up my message today. What I want to talk about is the maybe not so obvious that's going on and how you can become more aware of that and use that to grow your organization and its revenue, its profit, its people, and its market share. So I thought to myself, how could I illustrate this for our audience here at Summer Palooza? And Ted, I'm going to go to the stock market. That's where I'm going to go on this one. Okay. Is that okay with you? Can I go to the stock market on this one? All right. So I'm going to start with the obvious. If you haven't been on Mars in the last year, there's a particular stock, Ted, that absolutely, as soon as I put it up on the screen, you go, oh, of course. And this stock has been just straight up and to the right. And there's a reason, because it kind of ties back to one of those items that was on that list I just showed you, those 4 items of very obvious trends. Of course, that stock, Ted, is NVIDIA. NVIDIA is up, Ted, you can see it, almost 200%. And you look at the date and timestamp there, that's July 5th, 2024, trailing 1 year, 12 months, up almost 200%. So that's obvious. Ted, that probably doesn't surprise you and it probably doesn't surprise our audience. What may surprise you, though, is what I'm about to show you. I'm going to show you a stock that outperformed NVIDIA. And when you see who the stock is, that's what's so shocking. So that stock is none other than Abercrombie and Fitch. Ted, please tell me that shocks you.
Wow. Yes, it does. Yeah. Didn't expect that.
And Ted, the exact same date timestamp, no Photoshop used here. They're almost 374%, almost 400%, almost twice the growth in the exact same period of time. I love this metaphor, Ted. I love it because one of these guys, well, they make chips for the computers that are being used for AI. Like, to me, I can see why those guys are growing. There's a huge demand for their product. The other guys, I'm just going to say, Ted, they make cargo pants, okay? They make more than cargo pants. I'll give you that. They had $1 billion first quarter. I tell you all kinds of things about these guys. But here's the thing, Ted. There's stuff going on around our stores, around our partners that we need to be aware of. And what I want to do today is talk a little bit about how to find the Abercrombie and Fitch stuff that's going on that will allow you to quietly grow and that double the rate kind of thing. So I got to tell a story. You know, we're all chasing the same thing. We're trying to grow. We'll use the word success. Years ago, I had a dealer friend who asked me to sub for somebody that couldn't jump on a sailboat race. They call this a regatta. Now, Ted, I could spell regatta, but that's about as far as it went when it came to sailing. True story. And I'm lucky to be with you today. I mean, I about got my teeth knocked out on this regatta, and he's yelling at us and telling us what we're supposed to be doing. And all this is Greek to me. See, what I thought, Ted, was that a boat race, you know, we were basically going to have the wind at our back, right? And we're going to go from, you know, point A to point B. Shortest distance between 2 points, Ted, is a what? You remember this?
Straight line.
A straight line. And that's kind of what I thought we do. But Ted, that is not what we did. And in fact, we didn't have the wind at our back. We had the wind in our face. And in sailing, what I learned that day, Ted, was there's this term they use called tacking. And so you port tack, you starboard tack, and you're cutting your way through the wind at a zigzag sort of pattern to work your way towards your destination. So what I would say to you is this: we can either, hey, we can cheer or we can complain. And, you know, I strongly recommend pick door A. We can cheer our way through the winds that we're facing, right? So I remember Little League. I used to tell the kids, I said, look, you know, if you get up there, you cheer your teammates on. Your teammate doesn't get on, you come back to the dugout as the person who struck out or got out, and you cheer your team on. That's the model, right? And so that's really what we're doing here is we're tacking into the wind. So we do that, Ted, in automotive service with customer experience. That is your friend. That is one of the things that I think is unseen at certain levels today. We see the tools, we see the people, but are we looking for the product of all of these things? And the product, the offshoot, the direction, and the accomplishment is the experience. Let me go a little bit deeper. Peter Drucker wrote a book called The 5 Essential Questions. And Ted, this book is a friend to me. It has been a friend to me for a long time. It's guided me through a number of businesses. And I want to share it with our group today quickly. There's 5 questions Drucker proposes, and this is timeless. I don't care how long ago it was written, it's still timeless. What is our mission? Who is our customer? What does our customer value? How are we doing? And what is our plan? Those are the big 5, Ted. When you think about mission, this is not like the military, Ted, like we're going to take that hill. This is why we do what we do. Let me show you. You remember the old Think Different campaign with Apple?
Bet.
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
Steve Jobs.
There it is. Yeah. Think different. What space were they in? Computing. What was their mission? To think different. They led in the Windows environment. They looked at computing and said, no, we're going to do this different. We're going to do object-oriented. Very interesting stuff. Missions in business. And this is where I would start. I would encourage our audience to start thinking, what is our mission? And then what is the mission of those that we're interacting with, including our customers, including our vendor partners? Missions typically, Ted, are why. They're not what. They're why. 2, they fit on a t-shirt. You know, they're short. If it's a wrapped paragraph of sentences, does that make sense to you?
It's too long. Yeah.
It's too long. It's too long. It's got to get short. So, and there's 3 ingredients you'll find it in the batch every time. Number 1, it lines up with your opportunities. So it's going to be automotive fixed. 2, competence. It's something you're able to do. You're either working on a skill or overflow, or you're surrounded by people that have the same, but it's your competence. And 3, there's commitment. And commitment's measured, I think, Ted, in, you know, resources, resilience, you know, like, hey, we know we're going to face the headwinds, but we're going to cross the finish line. We're going to stay committed to this. So start with your mission. I think that's one. I talked about that a little bit in May at our fort, and I wanted to go a little bit deeper. Two is, who is our customer? Real quick here, I talked about this previously, but there's two customers. Every business has a primary and a secondary. So in automotive, primary would be the consumer. Secondary, Steve Greenfield, who you've had as a guest on the show many times, has done a great job of giving us this graphical landscape of vendor partners, many of them that sponsor this show, make this possible, right? These are folks, let's think about these people. These people dedicate their skill, their people, their resources, their time to making retail better. That's what they do. These are supporting customers. I like to say, if you're an elementary school principal, your primary customer is the 4th grade student, but your secondary customer is the parents, the school board, the teachers, the teachers union, the local bank that sponsors the ball field. So every business has primary and secondary. Very important. Now, once you understand those two basics, then we ask the big question: what does the customer value? And Ted, if you think about some of the partners on the show and you look at what they're building and providing in automotive, you can see where they're lining up with this question, right? So what the customer values in our real short TED Talk today is, these are the things they value. They value simple. These are their words. We do CSI surveys by the thousands. They value convenient. They value hassle-free. They value fair or value perceived. That's what we're seeing over and over. Like, none of these are Greek. All of these are English to us. We all understand what this means. That's what they value. And you know what, Ted? All of them are experience related. That's why I show that map of tacking. All of them relate to the experience. And you start looking at applications. Well, I mean, texting, real time. Last thing I want to do when I drop the vehicle off is call you all day. Last thing I want to do. I want you to be out in front of that. Do we have tools and processes and partners that can do that for us? For sure. Two, how about enhancing what you're telling me you're finding with video? Not new. The question is, do we execute? Right. Three, what about not coming to the store, but still being serviced? Can you come to me and get it? Or can you come to me, a la Ed Roberts, something that he has done very well at championing, and that is doing mobile service. So pickup and delivery or mobile service. Ted, the thing, when I get to thinking about this and our teams think about this, it all happens, Ted, under the umbrella of what you've been doing with the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It all happens while they're in for service. You see it?
Yeah, very clearly. Very much so.
Yeah. So what they value, that should tell us. So now we get down to the brass tacks, my friend. The big question here is, how are we doing? How are we doing what? How are we doing at what they value? Because that will tell us whether or not we're on track. I'm going to go back to Good to Great, Jim Collins, almost a 20-year-old book. Again, another timeless book. In the book, he talks about the Stockdale paradox. Here we are in 2024. We're in an election year. And so I'm going to use an election story. I remember Admiral James Stockdale being named as the vice presidential candidate for Ross Perot. That's right, 1991. So for those that don't remember that or don't know who he was, well, Stockdale, this was the famous moment. And he opened with this saying, he said, "Who am I? What am I doing here?" Do you remember that?
Yes, it was, and it was. I think it was the way he said it too that caught it's still in our memory 20 years later.
Yeah, I tell this story all the time because it was wild to me. I thought, oh wow, you just lost, Perot. You just lost, and it was just that style. Well, okay, Perot garnered 20% of the popular vote, the most since Teddy Roosevelt. Just so you know, a little bit of trivia for you. Stockdale was the highest ranking military official ever taken captive by an enemy. And that was the Vietnamese. It was the Vietnam War. He was in the Hanoi Hilton. And the thing that was famous about Stockdale, he was interviewed by Jim Collins, Good to Great. And he was asked a simple set of questions. He asked him, because he was amazed. He got out and he knew two things. He said, I knew two things every day. They were going to beat the heck out of me, probably, and I was getting out of here at some point. He said, I knew in my mind those two things were true. So he goes, well, who did make it out? He goes, oh, the optimists didn't make it out. He goes, I don't understand. The optimists? He goes, yeah, they were the ones who said we're going to be out by Christmas. Christmas would come, Christmas would go. Then they'd say we're going to be out by Easter. Easter would come. Then it would be Thanksgiving, then Christmas again. They die of a broken heart. He said the important lesson is you cannot confuse your belief or your faith that you're going to prevail, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be. Why am I saying this, Ted? Because if we're not great at CX, we're not going to be great at, as Tully Williams says, being in the repeat and referral business. We are going to be shackled to buying our next customer over and over and over again. Why write the check a second time? Why not just write it once? Ted, think about loyalty, product loyalty. The number one J.D. Powers brand loyalty this year is Porsche. But if I asked you what percentage it is, it's 51%. If I just landed from Mars, by the way, it doesn't matter who's first, second, third. The bottom line is you're telling me first place, half of their customers don't come back? Correct.
Wow.
Correct. So what I'm saying is, for those that haven't thought about this, look, there is a level of product loyalty. There's a level of it. But at the end of the day, they're going to be loyal to the process, the experience. That's why you ask this question. But you got to hit the first three in order to get to this one. Does that make sense?
It sure does.
Is that hitting home? How are we doing? You face the brutal facts. If we're not good at it, then we ask question 5, Ted. We say, what is our plan? So that's it. What is our mission? Who's our customer? What do they value? How are we doing? What is our plan? Ted, I'm going to lose my man card today on the Summer Palooza. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
Ted, I'm going to ask you a question. Do I look like a bird watcher to you? Do I look like a bird watcher? You've known me for 30 years. Am I a bird watcher?
I have never heard you discuss birds before. No.
Okay, Ted, I'm submitting to you today that I sat on the porch with my wife in July, and there's this app that Cornell University developed, and it's called Merlin. Have you heard of it, Ted? Merlin.
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, Ted, did you know there are 11,000 species of birds in the world? Wow. Did you know that?
11,000, no.
11,000. You can look that up. A little bit of trivia for you. And did you know that, like, you're in the Jersey area, there are certain breeds of birds that are unique to that area that I won't find here in the Dallas, Texas market, and so on and so on. Okay. So her and I are having a coffee, and it's early, and this app is on our phones, and so you touch record. And when you touch record, Ted, as the birds chirp, you can see this was July 7th at my place. Oh. You begin to see the birds that are singing, and the ones that are singing right now at that very second when I did the screenshot was a northern cardinal and a Carolina wren, the crow,
that's very
the
cool.
Mockingbird, indigo bunting, the Carolina chickadee, Saraventine. There you go. We got a little bit of Carolina over here in Dallas. How about that? So they all show up. This is fascinating to me. Ted, why am I bringing this up? Ted, because those birds have been in my backyard the whole time I've lived there for 10 years. But I couldn't tell you who is in my backyard. And I would say the same can be true for our retailers. If we don't know what our customer values, if we don't use the app, which is these 5 questions, and listen, we won't know what to do, and our plan won't matter. But if we do, and if we hear, we identify and we can align, Ted. That to me is where experience matters. That hits home, right? I mean, we're chasing it, Ted. I mean, whether it's virtual service BDC, it's retention moves, it's the training and coaching, or the software piece. I think that, Ted, is what has us chasing in the business development arena of automotive experience that matters. As always, what a pleasure to be with you again. I hope that hits home for our audience.
Well done, John Traver. Wow. Wow. Powerful, powerful stuff and relevant. Spot on. I'm going to get that app too, by the way.
join the non-man card club, right? It's fascinating. It is. It's fascinating. I shared that at a Dynastron event this summer.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, you guys got to bail me out. I said, please tell me there's somebody in the audience that knows. And there were 3 or 4 people. And there's one guy, Brad Pascal, who's here in the Dallas market for Dynatron. Right. And he's like, John, I have it. I love it. And I was like, man, God bless you, brother. Thank you for not leaving me sit out here on an island by myself. But your customers are talking. We got to listen. They'll tell us how to prioritize the rocks, Ted, what to work on first. I'm sitting on the phones too long. When I do have the interaction, here's what I don't get. Your backlog is too long. Some of us have solutions, but we're not listening to the solutionists. I could go on and on and on. But hopefully that message resonates today.
And experience matters. That rings home too. John Traver, the best in the business, everybody. Service has never been more important than it is today. Great customer service, the know-how, how to do it right. All right. Especially in this day and age. John showed you all the things that are happening in our industry right now. So much happening at once. And the Traver organization is on top of it. TraverConnect.com, TraverConnect.com. John's email is scrolling in the screen. I refer my friends and family to John Traver. No better than the BDC space than John Traver, everybody. So if you will, hook up with him, hook up with his group. He's the best and very active on social media. And you can see his contact information down below. John, on behalf of the retail community, thank you for all you do. Thank you for these last 25 events. Thank you for, bringing Fixed Ops to where it is today.
Thank you for leading. By the way, I missed the first 2, but when you started in February of 20, we were in Vegas together. It's been a pleasure to run with you ever since. And you're surrounded by some incredible leaders, thought leaders, incredible retailers who are committed to CX. And I just want to say one thing, he gives accolades, but we're not perfect here. We fight the good fight every day, but what we do is we commit to getting better every year, every month, every day. And business development matters too. It just does. So thanks for leading, Ted.
Matters greatly. John Traver, everybody, the best in the business. Traver Connect here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hi, John Traver here at Traver Connect. Thanks for joining us on our Service BDC video today. If you've already partnered with us, we appreciate your partnership over these past years. If you're new to us, we look forward to getting to hear your story and come alongside you relative to Service BDCs. When you hear the term Service BDC, the first word for me that comes to mind is calls. That's what really a Service BDC is going to be built around, both inbound and outbound calls. Those calls are going to load your shop, it's going to drive your RO count, and ultimately, it's going to tee up your next retail unit. One reason the Service BDC is so successful today, so important today, is it has a massive amount of opportunity in the form of those incoming calls. The cell phone changed everything. It's increased the amount of calls to dealerships, and as a result, we have to have a team of people centralized to take those calls. It's always been busy in service, but today when you ask dealers, they tell you they need help.
With only 3 service writers, it's virtually impossible for my service writers to load the shop effectively and efficiently in order to keep my shop full.
The second thing I'd be thinking about if I were you is, what do my calls sound like? What is our statement of work in those calls? Are we asking for email, address, phone number? Do we use a time and mileage approach to make sure we're pre-selling to any additional needs, or are we just order taking and then trying to take care of the customer when they get there and tell them we need their car all day? So what you want to do is establish a clear roadmap for how your calls are going to be handled. We'll help you do that, whether it's virtually here through our BDC or we do it with your team at your dealership. So perhaps you're like some dealers, when they hear us talk about centralizing the calls here in Dallas, Texas, they wonder what that call might sound like.
One thing I like about Traver is that my customers feel as though they're dealing with someone within my own store. I've had several customers come to my store and ask to speak to Chelsea when my people that realize Chelsea doesn't work there, she actually works in the call center in Dallas.
I have you scheduled for the recall. Was there anything else?
Let me tell you, you're like the most professional person I've ever spoken to, I think.
My pleasure.
Good job.
Thank you.
No, I'm serious. I'm being completely serious. No, we don't need anything else. That was great.
You have a wonderful day.
Okay, you're doing a great job. You sound good on the phone. So
Oh,
when I see Herb, I'll tell him he's a great person on the phone.
We're built for service BDCs, 60,000 square feet of workstations and personnel trained to take inbound calls. There's a handful of ways we can help you. We can help you with a virtual service BDC where we take your calls. We can help you with outbound campaigns, filling in those open spots in your schedule, turnkey, not just getting the customer to call, but actually taking the call and loading it in your scheduler. 3, training for your business development manager, for your business development rep. How do they take these calls? We'll bring them into our customer experience center if they're a BDM, or we'll provide online training for those BDRs. Leadership education for you. You're wondering, what are my KPIs? What should my staffing plan be? We can walk you through this in less than a day. And then tools, everything from texting, mobile payments, even in-dealership software to help your BDRs. So hopefully you see we're built for service BDCs. This is what we do, not what we talk about, and we hope to be talking to you soon.
Learn, network, and grow at the next Fixed Ops Roundtable pop-up event, happening live on October 3rd and 4th on the campus of Northwood University in Midland, Michigan. Please join us for this special event. Stay up to date with where we are headed next by following the Fixed Ops Roundtable on social media.